Mary, thank you for letting me come give a little update on where we are with a big project. It's the most congested corridor, as you all know better than anybody, the most congested corridor in the state of Tennessee, both in terms of the intensity and the duration of congestion. So when we looked at where's the first place we want to bring this public-private partnership to bear, this corridor was the obvious first choice. So I'll start out talking about why are we doing this? Why are we doing choice lanes with a user fee? Can't we just widen the road ourselves? The state of Tennessee represents about a $30+ billion identified need. This is for projects. This is not for normal programs. This is just for projects that have been identified as good projects. We think that the I-24 Southeast Corridor, we're in the middle of budgeting right now. We think the entire corridor from downtown to 840 is probably a $5 billion investment. So it's a mega project. And our annual program at TDOT is $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion has to cover resurfacing, bridge repair, taking care of our right-of-way, plus whatever projects come along. So you can see that the need far outweighs the levels of funding for really good projects in the state of Tennessee. The $5 billion for the I-24 Southeast Corridor, the largest project that TDOT has ever done, because we don't do debt to finance our projects, and we're not going to raise taxes. So the largest project we've ever done is $186 million. That was awarded last year. That's Alcoa Highway project. So that gives you just some perspective on how big of a deal this I-24 corridor endeavor is relative to the largest project that we've ever awarded. Public-private partnerships, let me back up and say that we're not the first state to try this. Other states have gone before us, and they've brought this private investment to bear, and it's usually in the form of express lanes in other states. So the private partner that we would engage with would design, build, finance, operate, and maintain a project, a set of choice lanes along the corridor. This frees up dollars to spend elsewhere. We've got scarce funding, and so this frees up our dollars to use, say, in rural communities or in our other arterial corridors around. We leverage the private sector's capital, their innovation, and they move fast because they are very motivated to get their project built so that they can start to recoup what is a huge investment. The joke here is that, no, the choice lanes are not going to be that much wider than the rest of the lanes. That they're emphasized here, so your eye will go to them. They'll be the same width as the rest of the lanes, but we're looking at 2 new lanes in each direction. So for the majority of the corridor, we have 4 lanes in each direction, so this will be 2 new lanes in each direction. All the general purpose lanes that exist today, including the HOV lane, those will stay free. Those will always be available to use for free. The choice lanes are price managed lanes. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but the whole point of a managed lane concept is to provide more reliable trip times. If TDOT found the money to add 4 lanes to I-24 ourselves and just add 2 more general purpose lanes in each direction, the axiom in transportation design is you can't widen your way out of congestion, because adding 2 more lanes just adds, now we'll have 6 lanes in each direction of weaving, of general purpose movements, of stop and go, and adding managed lanes is a much more efficient way to get traffic flowing. And the beauty of it is that not only does traffic flow predictably and reliably in the choice lanes. But the folks who stay in those 4 general purpose lanes, they get a better trip time because several of their neighbors have gotten in the choice lanes and moved out of their way. The picture on the right is my favorite because that's what we're talking about here. That's what the roadway will look like when we're done. 4 lanes with a shoulder, general purpose lanes on the right, about a 4-foot buffer area with the white plastic delineator posts, and then the 2 choice lanes to the left. Other states have seen great benefit to transit because typically the express lanes in other states, the transit buses use those for free. Doesn't mean people ride for free, it just means that the transit authority doesn't pay to put their buses in the lanes. We made the decision day one, WeGo can use these lanes for free. So they've already started envisioning express routes down this corridor that they weren't able to think about before because they didn't have reliable trip times. People are not going to get on a bus and then sit in traffic. So if they can.
For those that don't know, explain what WeGo is, just in case for those that don't live, that are in Nashville that might not know.
Sure, the transit authority with a snazzy name of WeGo. So, so in Texas, Florida, Georgia, Florida saw a ridership quadruple in the first 5 years. That we're not going to accept that as our bar because we don't have that much ridership now. We want much more than quadrupling ridership in 5 years. And our meetings with WeGo, they're excited about the routes that they can envision, the connection to the new transit hub and beyond. And really, these benefits to transit, I know there's a transit initiative on the ballot, or a Choose How You Move initiative on the ballot in November. These benefits really don't rely on whether that passes or not. The hub will be there at Hickory Hollow, and we're going to be able to see these benefits to transit. Like I said, more reliable trip times, on-time movements and performance, better ridership, and they will always use, those buses will always be free in the lanes. So I want to zoom down now and just talk about the I-24 corridor. Right now we're doing environmental work, our NEPA work, from 840 into almost to the inner loop and out to Briley and a connector onto 440. So this is the entire NEPA footprint. The first project, so this is what I think is $5+ billion. The first project will not be the entire thing at once. A project in this market, in the P3 market, really needs to be no larger than $2 billion, $2.5 billion. So we're right now studying to see, how far south does that $2.5 billion get us, and I guess the benefits, to all the riders that originate further to the south are you alleviate that congestion from the halfway point into town, and you've hit the biggest part of the problem. So right now we're in preliminary design. We're doing our NEPA work, and we're getting ready to start public meetings, and that's really why I'm here, is to promote folks coming out and looking at the conceptual designs, talking to us about whether it's right of way or the design or environmental, and give us your feedback. Potential access points along the corridor into the choice lanes, in and out of the choice lanes. The white dots are spots where you can basically just merge over from the general purpose lanes into the choice lanes. The red dots are interchanges where there would be new ramps added that go straight down into the choice lanes. So no general purpose movements that exist today will be taken away. All the interchanges will have all the accessibility they do today. We're not taking any of that away, but it's just more efficient to get folks into those lanes by having dedicated on and off ramps at those interchanges. similar slide, this is for what we call reasonable alternative 2. So the folks who come to the public meetings, they'll be looking at alternatives 1 and 2 in terms of the conceptual design. Graphic, I like the picture better, but you see, four lanes, 2 choice lanes, median barrier, 2 choice lanes, and then 4 general purpose lanes. So this is when we're at grade. A lot of this stretch, in order to avoid right-of-way impacts, in order to avoid environmental impacts, a lot of the section will be elevated. If you've been on express lanes in other states, you see this. You see those express lanes go away from the general flow and have their own independent movement. So user fees, this is how the private partner, the private partner basically brings debt and equity to the table. So those billions of dollars of investment, they bring that to the table. They build they design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the new lanes, and then over the course of some concession period, they charge user fees for folks who choose to get over there. Really the thing that we spend the most time talking about is the fact that these are dynamically priced. They will cost more to use when there are peak periods of congestion. That is not price gouging. It's actually the way these managed lanes have to work. In our contract with them, we will set a minimum speed. Typically in other states, it's 45 miles an hour. They usually don't let folks get that slow, but that's the contract floor. So we'll say you must maintain 45 miles per hour in the choice lanes. The only way they have to ensure that too many folks don't get in there is to raise the fees, right? And so once enough folks have gotten over there that they're in danger of violating that contract provision, they're raising the fee. So that will happen dynamically during peak periods. Another reason why that is appropriate in this kind of a P3 arrangement is this is a revenue risk P3. They are taking all of the risk that the traffic will be there, that the revenue will be there. They give us a projection in the contract of this is how much revenue we project over however many years. If they fall below that revenue projection, they bear the consequences. We don't share in the downside. If the revenues exceed their projections, we start revenue sharing with them, and those revenue sharing bands increase as the more goodness there is, the more we share, all the way up to the point where we're getting 100% of the incremental revenue. So we share in the upside, they take all the risk of the downside. So that's kind of the background on why this dynamic pricing is appropriate for this type of a P3, public-private partnership. Spoke to Rutherford County Task Force, law enforcement, TWRA was there. First thing they want to know is how are we going to get in those lanes and do our job? How are we going to take care of people and property? And the answer is this is always going to be TDOT right away. We're not selling any land. This is TDOT right away that they basically lease the use of for these lanes. They're still in the state of Tennessee, and it's still TDOT right away, so they're able to do their job anywhere in guardrail to guardrail. The help trucks will still be out there, but the concessionaire, the developer, they'll have their own help trucks because it's in their interest to clear incidents quickly and get those lanes flowing again. And then the coordination between their traffic management center, they'll have one of their own, just like we have a traffic management center. The incident response in other states has never been a problem because people don't usually argue over who's going to take care of someone just because there's plastic delineators between the lanes. If our help truck's there, we're going to help people, and vice versa. This is our schedule. Right now, August 24, we're starting the in-person and virtual meetings, the public comment period. The environmental studies go well into next year. Once we get the feedback from the public and we take those two reasonable alternatives and we come up with what is our preferred alternative, we'll bring that to public hearings early next year. We'll issue our request for proposals to the market in the spring of next year and go through a procurement that will end with a closing date of fall of 26, late summer of 26. So we could see construction start in 2027. That is a very aggressive schedule to do 12 or 13 miles of 4-lane widening on an interstate highway. I know it's hard sometimes for the public to see how long it takes to get this accomplished, but you see that environmental studies won't even be cleared until well into next year. So the public meetings that kick off tomorrow night's virtual, and all of this can be located on our website. And then we'll be in person here in Smyrna on the 21st, up in Nashville on the 28th, and down at the Southeast Community Center on the 29th. And this is open house style, so you can come and go whatever's convenient for you. We're trying to have these at different times of the day, different dates, just so folks can stop in, go to the right-of-way station, talk to our subject matter experts about right-of-way, go to the environmental section, talk to them about the floodplain, or it's really designed around the public having convenience to interact with us and give us feedback. These are the different booths that we'll have at the public meetings. A lot of folks will want to look at those current concepts and see what those what the alignments look like. Some of the things that we've asked the city and other stakeholders is help us get the word out. If you have a community group, no matter how small, and you want me to come out and sit down and let's talk about some of this, I'm glad to do that. There's nothing more important right now than us shining light in the corners, as they say, and building trust and understanding. We've got a great story to tell. The fact that we're bringing this investment to bear in Middle Tennessee on this corridor is exciting for me, living in this area, and glad to come talk about it. Some of the ways you can get in touch with us. The best way would be to go to our choice TDOT.24 choice lanes. All the links are there. And then I've got just a brief video here that helps you visualize how these lanes will interact with general purpose lanes. So. Oh, there's no sound. Can you turn the sound on?
We're having some audio. We're having some audio issues.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay.
I would try to narrate, but I'm about to lose my voice. Okay, this is the visualization that shows the purple lanes are the choice lanes.
Can you come to the mic
Oh,
so
sorry.
that those on
Sorry.
TV can hear you?
Okay, yeah. I think we'll go back to the visualization here in a minute. Yeah, here we go. So this is going to show those ramps that I talked about that get folks directly from an interchange down into or off of the choice lanes up to the interchange. The existing general purpose lanes or ramps are still there. This is talking about dynamic pricing. They put Volpass. Not sure that's going to be the name of the pass. Might get some argument from folks on that one. Really, the impact to the regional economy just from folks being able to move people and goods reliably. And like I said, the best part of the message for me is to tell folks you don't have to get in these lanes to benefit. Stay in the general purpose lanes and still see an improved trip time. Transit, public meetings. Sorry, the sound's not working.
So, while the video's finishing up, can you talk a little bit about, I mean, one of the questions that we've had people ask is, what's the difference in this and a toll road?
Sure. And some folks have accused us of not speaking clearly. Yes, these are toll lanes, but the reason that we don't, the reason we use user fees and the reason we talk about choice lanes is because when people envision a toll road, they think, if I get on that road, I'm going to have to pay to get from A to B. In this case, it's absolutely your choice as to which lanes you use, and so we just wanted to be as clear, speak as clearly as possible that we'll never charge tolls to use interstates. That this will always be a choice.
Council, any questions or comments? Wait, we don't, our mics, none of ours are working, so.
So you were saying that if they do go into the choice lanes, there will be a fee, and how is that determined? Is there like a sticker, or do you pay monthly? How does that work?
Thank you for that question. Transponders have, that technology has changed so much just in the past 10 years, and by the time we go lanes open, it will change again. Right now, if we were picking our transponder technology, it would be, it's called 6C. It's a smart sticker with an RFID embedded in the sticker, a chip in the sticker that you would put on the inside of your window. When you pass under the gantry, the reader can tell that you're in the choice lanes and not in the general purpose lanes. And you would, when you get a transponder, it's as simple as scanning a QR code, setting up an account. You can preload it with some funds. You can tie it to a credit card. There's different ways to do that. And we'll be pushing transponders out in a big way, because the other option is, if there's no transponder, is to pay by plate, which involves finding the registered owner of the vehicle, finding a good address, sending a bill, both in-state and out-of-state. That's not our preference. So I may be standing outside of Kroger handing out transponders here in a few years, because really, I mean, it's in our interest to really push the transponder usage out there. And they're basically free. They're 50 cents to the cost of them. So.
We really appreciate you being here. We want to encourage as many people to come to the meeting at the Event Center on the 21st from 5 to 7. It is a come and go. You can stay the whole time, or you can come for a short period of time to learn more about this. I think it's something that is going to affect all of us, because probably everyone in this room travels Interstate 24 at some point. So we really appreciate you being here. You're more than welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you'd like to, but you don't have to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So you all heard we're having a little audio problem. That mic was not having audio problem. It's only ours. So they say we're going to reboot, and they say it's going to take about 1 to 2 minutes. So while we're doing that, I will go ahead and talk a little bit about public comments before I call the first person up. So just for you to remember on public comments, the town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed your address, if you live in the city limits of Smyrna, and if you're here representing a business or an organization, if you'll also let us know that. So now it's just a matter of Todd and Chris giving us the go-ahead that we're ready, because I do not want you to miss your TV time in getting to do your public comments. Todd, are we ready? Almost, okay. Chris, are we good? Test 1, 2, 3. Yes? No?
We are go.
We're good. Okay, great. Okay. So, our first person under public comment tonight is Scott Helton. So Scott, you get to be the guinea pig to make sure you hit everything that you're supposed to talk about.
Well, I'm also setting my stopwatch so I don't get buzzed.
Oh, okay.
Scott Helton. Oh, you meant, well, I'd already started it.
I'm just kidding, go ahead.
My name's Scott Helton. I live at 140 Queen Cliff Court in Smyrna, Tennessee. It's actually county right now, but looking to be in the city. Basically, my wife and I have worked in Smyrna for the last 34 years and lived here for the majority of that time. We've lived on Queen Cliff property for the last 20 years. And had meant for that to be our permanent, full-time, that's our last house we're gonna be in. But as I get older, I learn that things always change. So opportunity has kind of knocked on the door. We weren't searching for it, but I realize that as I get older, I can't do the things that I want to do anymore. I'm starting to have more time, but having less energy. So opportunity came along to sell this property, and it would be good for me and my wife as far as just having that opportunity, and also, you know, working with the engineers. They have really tried to work with us, and also, from my understanding, have really worked with the town and the people that in the surrounding area to try to make this a development that Smyrna can be proud of. That you know, it's got walking trails, it's got pools, it's got things that I never saw growing up in a subdivision, and it can be something that can enhance Smyrna. So yes, it could be beneficial for me. Like I said, I can't work the way I used to anymore, and I've worked all of my life. That's all I've ever known is to work. So this would be an opportunity to not have two jobs anymore, honestly. Working on a farm and a full-time jobs, I know some of you already know that. I know you guys do that, but it's a full-time job 2 times over. So it's something that could benefit not only myself and my wife, but can benefit the town of Smyrna as well. So thank you for the time, and I didn't get buzzed.
Thank you, Mr. Helton. Next is Vicki Morgan Saltkill. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm Vicki Morgan Saltkill, Mabel Morgan's daughter. I live at 704 Pinwheel Court in Cane Ridge. I do not live in the town of Smyrna. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my sister Teresa Morgan Ray and her husband Mike Ray, who are unable to attend this meeting. They are the owners of 4777 Rock Springs Road, which is inside the city limits, and it is one of the parcels that makes up the Mabel Farms development. Our family moved to Rock Springs Road in 1981. We've seen and endured substantial growth all around our property, all along Rock Springs Road, Walden Road, Cooks Lane, Lee Road, Rocky Fork Road, and others. Our mother has lived on this property for the past 43 years, which is half of her lifetime. Now that our property is surrounded by other residential developments, the family feels it is time to sell, Deciding to do so was a difficult decision for us because it affects generations that still live on the property today, 4 generations. The revisions Century has made to their original submittal lowers density, especially when compared to adjoining developments. At the last meeting, it was stated that the developer met with the neighbors and has made more concessions than most developers normally do. Century has introduced nicer, more aesthetically pleasing home designs. They plan to preserve the natural beauty of the land by keeping the 2 large ponds and much of the natural vegetation, as well as providing a 20-foot buffer and decreasing the number of adjoining lots. Their revisions address the council's prior concerns by reducing density to 2.66 and designing higher-end homes that are well above the minimum standard. Given that the proposed Maple Farms property is bordered by the already approved Gwen Farms and Narren Farms developments, we respectfully request to ensure consistency that the same rezoning standard be applied to our property that was applied to those 2 developments. At the last town council meeting, Vice Mayor Atkins stated that this project meets the current standard, which is why the Planning Commission approved it twice. Century's revised submission not only meets the current standard, but it also meets a far more elevated standard that the council has requested for what is being referred to as transition neighborhood. We are amazed that the rezoning of our property has been such a controversial issue, especially since surrounding developments have been approved with far less debate. It's doubtful anyone has been more affected by Gwen Farms than we have. We feel that when other similar developments have been approved, we're merely asking for equal treatment consistent with the current standard on what you approved in the past. Because Century's revised submittal not only meets but far exceeds the current standard, we humbly ask the council to approve rezoning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Lisa Riesenover.
Good evening, my name is Lisa Riesenover. I'm at 4821 Rock Springs Road, and I'm in the city limits. And once again, I'm just coming here to express my concerns about the number of homes that's going to be built in Maple Farms, which is the subdivision that's going to impact me the most. The number of houses that are going to be directly up against my property, my driveway, and my house. And as I have repeatedly stated, I'm not trying to stop the development or progress. I just I believe it needs to be done with minimal impact to the surrounding neighbors and with the least impact on the community and the town as possible. Development should be logical, practical, and smart. I chose to build my house there because it was rural and quiet and private. And now I'll have a minimum of 12 to 13 houses bordering my property, running up the length of my driveway and directly beside the area of my yard that I use daily. All of these houses bring with them families with outside lights, lawnmowers, backyard gatherings, dogs, and security concerns, especially during the construction phases. The peace and tranquility will be gone, not to mention the abundant wildlife that we love and enjoy daily. It will no longer be there because they don't have their natural habitat. My property is generational, and it was my hope that my kids and grandkids would be able to enjoy the same qualities that I have enjoyed, not being in a subdivision surrounded by lots of neighbors, while being able to experience the wildlife and tranquility. That hope is slowly being dwindled away. But after watching what unfolded at Gwen Springs, I'm greatly concerned about the process of how the development of Maple Farms will be monitored. How do we ensure that the specific concessions that the developer has promised, such as the existing tree line, planting additional natural tree line buffer, the distance between the houses and the new builds and my house, and any other concessions that were made, how are those going to be enforced, or how will impacted neighbors be notified if they change or are not being met? What if the developers change? I think that's what happened in Gwen Farms. What holds a new developer accountable? What is the recourse, if any, if the concessions are not adhered to? And I just hope that y'all understand the only reason that I'm here is because that is my property. That's where my investment is. And I would like to think if you were in my shoes, you would have those concerns as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dawn Hill.
Dawn Hill, 5007 Rock Springs Road in the city limits. Good evening. I'm speaking in opposition to Maple Farms rezoning and development plan. Throughout this proposed project, my husband and I have attempted to convey our concerns in a civil, respectful, and cordial manner with all parties involved. While I want to be reasonable and civil, I need to state in no uncertain terms, I do not want development of this kind near my home. I want to retain a rural feel as much as possible, as those of Maple Farms did as well before Gwen Farms. And this proposed development that is part of the Cooks Lane subdivision destroys the rural enjoyment of my home and all of my neighbors' homes. Repeatedly, I've been told an owner has the right to sell their property, and that is true. I bear no ill will towards the owners of Maple Farms for seeking to profit from the sale of their property. But when the sale involves rezoning and egregiously impacts my property, I have to draw the line. Where are the protections for my property and the adjacent property owners in this equation when the owners of Maple Farms are abandoning their property and will not even remain citizens of Smyrna after the sale? As you know, my husband and I own the property that belonged to the former mayor of Smyrna, Paul Johns. What you may not know is that properties on the corner of Rock Springs and Cooks Lane were sold with civil restrictions so that developers would not be allowed to fundamentally change the rural feel of the area. Paul Johns created these stipulations because he saw that development would happen at some point and he wanted to protect the land from unchecked development. Do you want your legacy as town council members to undo those protections he put into place for rural Smyrna before you became council members? The Maple Farms development does not fit the aesthetic or the feel of this rural era of Smyrna. At present, there's over 11,000 homes in the pipeline of the planning department. Why do we need to build PRD developments in this rural section of Smyrna in the first place? How many PRD developments do we need? When will we begin to protect the rural feel of Smyrna and the acreage property owner's right to maintain a rural feel? At the special called meeting regarding PRD revision, both Jeff and Steve mentioned two important factors in your decision tonight. One, how are we protecting rural property owners from development? Are we going to implement minimum lot sizes for new developments in rural areas of the town, as other municipalities have done? Secondly, Jeff pointed out, just because the requirements for PRD are met does not mean that it needs to be approved by the town council. There are other factors to be taken into consideration under administrative review. Jeff described it as contrasting the planning requirements versus the eye of the beholder, meaning consideration of factors such as how the PRD development fits with the adjacent homes or how it encroaches upon adjacent acreage property owners. Jeff described these factors as just as important as whether the PRD requirements have been met. These factors must be taken into consideration. You have the power to say no to the unchecked development of rural Smyrna. We only get one chance to save the rural areas of Smyrna, and this is one area that should be protected. Please deny this project until you officially revisit protections for acreage property owners in rural Smyrna. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Hill.
Ken Hill, 5007 Rock Springs, in the city town limits. Y'all, we gotta stop meeting like this. I'm here again in regards to the Maple Farms PRD. First, I have to say how impressed I have been in, through this particular project, y'all recognizing the issues within the Smyrna written requirements on PRDs, and that you swiftly have started the process of making changes, making improvements, rewriting the requirements to give the developers and future landowners that are going to sell better guidelines on how to go about doing that. So with that, I want to say thank you for your good efforts on that. Additionally, I want to say in the last town council meeting how impressed I was with the tactics that the developer deployed before the last town council meeting. You got to admit, big city developers, they're accustomed to pushback, and they're accustomed to what has been going on here, and they're good at winning and getting their way. And I was very impressed with how they went about it, and you just got to say it was impressive to watch. But let me be clear. Never have we wanted this level of development within our community. We're not opposed to development. What's going on now is impacting the neighbors, the citizens. In the lights of the Cooks Lane development, none of us were aware of it. You had no opposition to Cooks Lane. There was something not right with that one. We would have been here passionately opposing that one had anybody had known about that. Now, several of you said there's been a lot of discussion about this property, and there's been some good work. I ask for you to let us finish the good work.
Century Communities has put in a lot of effort, as well as the Rock Springs community, and have done quite a bit. Not knocking any of the efforts, but we're not quite done yet. I'm asking you to not let this be a rush through, which later we come back and say, we should have just taken a little bit more time. We could have made it perfect. What I'm asking you tonight, not to necessarily deny it, but let's defer it. Give us a little bit more time to work with the developer to fine tune and tweak some of the things that we're so close to coming to. For an example, their current plat shows the first home, lot number 1, as you enter the development, right on Rock Springs. That house is going to be closer to Rock Springs than the latest homes that were just built on Razzle Drive in Gwen Farms. How about pushing it up the road a ways, or maybe just eliminating, giving a smoother transition off of Rock Springs into the Maple Farms development. Same for the homes at the end of the
3 minutes, Mayor.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
We appreciate
spoke a whole lot faster.
I was trying to keep it easy.
She practiced at home. Okay, Mike Smith.
I even waited until after you said your name.
Mike Smith, I live at 5074 Rock Springs Road in Smyrna. I'm here to encourage you to vote against the Maple Farms development. This is the third time I've done so, and the Vegas odds have me on the long shot side of it this time. The reason behind that seems to be at the great theory of consistency, which has played a deciding factor in each of the preceding votes. When faced with a zoning plan that is very broad and more or less undefined at the granular level, and just about any kind of development can be brought forth, the theory of consistency says that if we did it before, we must do it again. Maybe if there had been some thought put into the Gwen Farms vote a few years ago and recognized that the tightening of the zoning definitions were needed, we would maybe be in a position of local developers building less dense neighborhoods, as well as supporting local Little League teams and stuff like that, instead of coming in from out of state, throwing a ton of money at land, and then claiming the need to build high-density neighborhoods in order to be economically feasible. But it seems to be too late for that, so that the theory of consistency applies. I still urge you to vote no and take the steps to figure out where the future development needs to go. Also, there's apparently the beginnings of road planning being started at this time. Cooks Lane work should go no further than the Cooks Lane development property. TDOT has apparently, by rumor, put on hold all planning for any of the roads that this traffic would feed into so that they can focus their efforts on the dubious plan to add private toll lanes to 24. So there is no need to do anything to Cooks Lane or to Rock Springs Road other than turn lane enhancements for safety. Again, I urge a vote of no tonight, and remember that the great Acme Buggy Whip Company being atop the New York Stock Exchange is a result of the theory of consistency.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Matt Ford?
My name is Matt Ford, 203 Todd Lane in the city limits. For those who are listening, thank you for letting me be here again. For those who are listening that might not know who I am, my name is Matt Ford. I'm the proud son of R.C. and Callie Ford. I'm a husband to Allie Ford and a father to 5 strong young boys, Matthias, Valor, Ezra, Shepherd, and Abraham. I'm a member of Life Point Church, Stewart's Creek. Last I was here, I spoke about making a change to our town charter to acknowledge the crown rights of Jesus Christ in Smyrna, Tennessee. Following that, I suggested a religious test. I made the point that this is all based on the truth that governments are established by God. Mr. Peach said that the proposal is a state and federal issue. He said that it would take a change in Article 1, Section 3 and 4 of the Tennessee Constitution. Article 1, Section 3 reads that no preference shall ever be given by law to any religious establishment or mode of worship. Section 4 says no religious test shall ever be required. I hear it, but if you keep reading, there's more. Yes, at the beginning of the Tennessee Constitution it says no religious test, but it goes further. Article 9, Section 2 says no person who denies the being of God or a future state of rewards and punishment shall ever hold any office in the civil department of the state. Notice, in order to be a public servant, you have to believe in God. How can the Tennessee Constitution say no religious test, but require that all public servants believe in God and the afterlife? This is how. The religious test means the denominational test. They wanted to avoid running into the same thing that they had in Europe. It is not that they didn't want people to be Christian, it is that they didn't want a denomination forced. Our founding fathers never dreamt of a day where atheists or Muslims would hold a public office. Our documents had a Christian framework and favored no denomination. What they meant was you cannot make somebody become an Anglican or a Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian, Catholic, or other Christian denomination. We know this because of what used to be in our Constitution, but has since last November been deleted. It said that no ministers of the gospel could hold a public office. Did you hear that? What gospel were they talking about? This is 1796. There is only one gospel in America at that time, the Christian one. They were not speaking about the Muslim gospel, Jewish gospel, atheist gospel, or the god Molech. To summarize, religious tests in the modern vernacular meant denominational tests. What I would like to ask tonight is ask the council tonight is, would you be willing to motion for our ballots to give us the vote to acknowledge the crown rights of Jesus Christ in our town? It seems that I saw that in the last election how things are brought to the state legislature, which Mr. Peach said that needed to happen. It seems that you honorable civil magistrates can do it. You can send it if you allow us to vote for it. Would you let us vote for Christ to be our king? You mentioned that our town, you motioned that our town should vote where our court would be. Shouldn't we be afforded the same right to vote on who the high king of our court is? Please do not be afraid of Christendom. I'd like to quote Chesterton as I close. Christendom has had a series of revelations in each one of them. Christianity has died. Christianity has died many times and risen again, for it has a God who knows the way out of the grave. Please let Christ be our king.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Okay, that ends our public comments for tonight, and at this time, I will call to order our meeting. Tonight, Chaplain Tim York is going to do our prayer, and I looked for Mike Strange. Mike Strange was supposed to do the pledge, so Mark Parker, are you gonna pick up his slack? Oh, he's got us. Okay, if you'll all stand with us, please.
Let's pray. Our Father, we're so grateful for who you are and what you do. Lord, we're reminded of how you have blessed our lives, you've blessed our homes, you blessed the state we live in, the county we live in, and the city that we live in. We're grateful that you have been so kind to us. And Father, we pray that you would give wisdom and direction on every decision that is made. I pray that your Spirit would guide, direct in everything that happens. And Father, we thank you that you are sitting on the throne and that you do care about us. And I pray for clear direction in all of our lives. Bless our city fathers, bless those who serve in the city. We ask you, Lord, to give them blessings and protection. We ask all this in the wonderful name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
I didn't know if you knew how to get it started. So.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate it. Miss Amber, if you'll do roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Peebles, Councilman Cole, Councilman Morrell, Councilman Short, Councilman Sullivan, Vice Mayor Atkins, Mayor Reed.
Here. Vice Mayor Adkins was not able to be with us tonight. One of his close friends, Joy Sherrill, who a lot of you all know, passed away, and he needed to be there tonight. So we'll make sure to keep her family in our thoughts and prayers. She has been a huge part of the town of Smyrna in giving back. So we'll move on to item 4, which is approval or corrections of the minutes of the July 9th, 2024 regular meeting, the July 25th, 2024 workshop meeting, and the July 11th, 2024, and the August 2nd, 2024 special called meetings of the town council. Council, is there any additions or corrections for these minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Yeah, You always ask Jeff if these were in order, and you didn't ask that.
Oh, I did, I forgot. Sorry, Ben. I will make sure that I ask about that next time, so, I won't leave you out. So, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes pass. Jeff or Amber, correspondence or communication? I have some tonight. This is from Dan Parker. Hal forwarded this to me. So it says, Dear Mayor Reed, I'm writing to thank you for the outstanding cooperation I received from the Smyrna Golf Course, and especially Mr. Hal Laughlin. My farm is nearby, and I had a cow to get out of the property and stay around the golf course in the trees for some time. Mr. Laughlin was kind enough to allow us to come on the course with equipment and horsemen and catch the cow. I cannot say enough about Mr. Laughlin's assistance and kindness, as well as the use of golf carts that evening. He knew right where she was when we arrived that evening, and that allowed us to catch her before dark. We hear the cow had become a favorite around the course, and we appreciate that she was safe there until we could capture her. And I hear that, was it on the green, where was she that you finally caught her?
I got to say something about it.
This doesn't happen every day.
I just want you to know that there's cowboys in Middle Tennessee. The farm on Rock Springs across from the seamstress, that's where it got out. And it had been living on the golf course since the middle of May. And we just, it stayed in the trees on number 1. And we've been seeing it in video, and I've been talking to Dan, and he hired 2 guys out of Lebanon. They showed up with a trailer, 2 horses and saddles, cowboy hats, boots, the whole thing. They started a skirmish line with some of their friends and pushed it out of the trees at number 1. Ran it out into the fairway. Within 2 minutes, they had the head and the back foot lassoed on the ground, wrapped up like a rodeo. There's real cowboys. I saw some real cowboying that night. Put it on the trailer, hauled it back to his farm, and
Well, Jeff had sent us, as council, a text, and one of the council members said, I don't believe it until I see pictures, and we were presented pictures, so.
he's got it.
That's right, that's exactly right, so.
Hal, I just want to know, Hermitage has a flock of sheep. Are we
No.
cows?
This was a 600-pound heifer.
I just was curious.
And we named her Bogey.
So you never know what you're gonna see out on the Smyrna Golf Course. So, awards and recognitions tonight, anything? Okay, then we'll move on to item number 7, which is our consent agenda, and these are items that are determined by our town manager to be routine matters and not necessarily needing individual discussion. But I do like to read for those that are here and those that are on TV to know exactly what we're voting on. And if there's an item that council would like to pull off and vote on individually, we can do that. Our council consent agenda tonight is not very long, so item A is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with O.R. Colin Associates to perform appraisals, review appraisal, and negotiations for right-of-way acquisition for sidewalks along Florence Road. Item B is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with Musco Lighting to replace the sports field lighting on Field 3 at the Todd Lane Baseball Complex. Item C is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an expanded contract with eSource to include leak detection services. Item D is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the Highland Avenue water main route study. Item E is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute change order number 1 for the North Lowry Waterline Phase 2B project. And item F is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to approve the bid tab for Basin A Sewer Rehab Phase 1. Council, is there any item you'd like to pull off and discuss individually? We have discussed these at the council workshop. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A motion by Jerry, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We'll now move on to old business. Tonight we have 6 public hearings. And our first public hearing is consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 51, part of parcel 8.11. Hey, Kevin.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the plan of services. This is for your next item on your agenda, the annexation request. This is just putting in writing the services that the town would be providing upon The effective date of annexation of the property, which would be all services except for water, which would be provided by a consolidated utility district. Sewer would be provided by extension of a wastewater main to the property by the property owner. The planning commission did review this plan of services, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on the plan of services for this development? Seeing no questions or comments for Kevin, this is a public hearing, so I'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing, go to council for a motion.
I move we approve this plan of services.
A motion to approve the plan of services, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second by Raquel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to item B, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and PRD zoning of property located on tax map 51, part of parcel 8.11, requested by Adam Lawrence with Gamble Design Collective on behalf of Michael and Marie Burke, containing 17.42 acres. The property is located at 6304 Lee Road, sorry.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the annexation and PRD zoning request. It's on S6304 Lee Road. It's about 800 feet west of the intersection with Lancaster Road. This request is for the rear portion of the parcel, would not include the 6.38 acres along Lee Road, which would remain in the county. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential development in this area. Surrounding zoning is a couple different things. The PRD, which is the Buckingham Hills and the Hidden Springs PRD and PUD in town, the Olive Branch PUD, which would be across Lee Road, and then RM in Rutherford County. The town would be providing all services, as I stated earlier, except for water, which would be provided by CUD, and they have indicated there is not adequate fire flow to this area at this time for this development. The proposed PRD is for 47 single-family lots on 17.42 acres for a density of 2.7 lots per acre. Access would be from the existing Stub Street at Napa Valley Drive, as well as the proposed Hidden Springs development to the west. The Hidden Springs project was annexed in October 2023. The preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission in April of 2024. It is proposed that this request would be phase 3 of that development. The proposed lot sizes, house sizes, materials, etc. are the same as a previously approved PRD, and all requirements of the town are being met with this request. The Planning Commission did review this request, did recommend approval, 6-4, 0 against with 1 abstention. Staff would also recommend approval.
Questions or comments for Kevin on this one? Okay, this is also a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak for or against this item, you can come forward at this time. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing, go to council for motion.
I move we approve.
For motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C is consideration of a resolution and memorandum of ordinance 24-26 relative to the annexation and PRD zoning of property located on tax map 51, part of parcel 8.11. This is our housekeeping item. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? Whichever other one.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item D is another public hearing. It's consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 32, parcels 29.00, 29.02, 29.03, 29.04, and 29.05 to go from R1 to PRD. It's requested by Kyle Griffin with CSDG on behalf of the property owners. The properties requested to be rezoned contain approximately 40.1 acres and are located on Rock Springs Road. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request for several parcels along Rock Springs Road between the intersections with Cooks Lane and Waldron Road. Land use plan would support medium density, single family residential development in this area. Surrounding zoning is R1 and PRD, which is the Gwynn Farms and Cooks Lane PRDs in town, and R1 in Laverne. The proposed PRD is for 107 single-family lots, which is a density of about 2.7 units per acre. Houses would range from 1,600 to 3,000 square feet in size, be a mix of brick, stone, and concrete siding. There are some additional architectural requirements that were talked about last month on first reading that were incorporated in the pattern book that you all now have in your packet regarding some the numbers as far as the number of kind of the range of lot sizes and the number of lots in each kind of range there of size, as well as some additional requirements on those, the architectural requirements that were put in there. This development does meet our requirements with regards to open space, parking, and setbacks. One access point is proposed to Rock Springs Road. The development would also connect to the adjoining Cooks Lane development. A traffic study was completed for this development in conjunction with the Cooks Lane development and will require improvements within Rock Springs Road to include a left turn lane into the development. As I stated earlier, this does lie within CUD service area. Will serve letter has been issued that details some off-site system upgrades which will be necessary in order to meet fire flow requirements. The Planning Commission did review this request, did recommend approval with several conditions. Just asked them to provide sizes of the on-site and off-site sewer mains to show that the HVAC units, if there are on the rear of the house, if that rear does face a public right-of-way, that would be screened, and to extend the 20-foot buffer strip along the western border of the project to include the lot at the frontage there along Rock Springs Road. That has been shown. The package you have there does show that. The map that's shown on the screen there doesn't show that, but the package that you have does go all the way, that 20-foot buffer all the way to Rock Springs Road on that western border there. One other thing that was talked again about last month, it is shown and it is on the plans now regarding that buffer area, as well as the two additional trees being added per lot that's built kind of behind the buffer strip, but an additional couple of trees there. Again, that was discussed and it has been incorporated into the pattern book that's been submitted. So, and I think that's all I got.
We've had quite a bit of discussion on this one, whether it's at citizens' comments as well as in our workshops. Any questions for Kevin before we go to public comment, or any comments?
So how is it ensured that this 20-foot buffer remains and that it does get included? I know it's in the plan, but how do you make sure that it remains there, and what happens if they don't keep it?
Well, it'll have to be shown on every plat that comes in for once if this is approved. The subdivision plats, they would have to show that area. Something that has worked in the past really well on a completely different development that worked really well. This was actually a commercial project next to residential. We had them put up the orange netting fence at that 20-foot area and made it really clear where that border is, and that worked really well because it was very clear to the folks that are out there actually doing the work, the development work, riding the dozer. There's a big bright orange fence right there that shows that, and so that's what I would recommend. We have to work through with the developer on how they do that exactly, but that's what has worked in the past. And
What about during construction?
Yes, during construction, yes. Obviously not a permanent fence, no, but it would be there during construction until they're finished building, and once they finish building and houses are completed, then they could obviously take it down. But
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit for my neighborhood. I live in Cobblestone right here off Enon Springs Road, and Fazoli's and that strip building is right in front of our neighborhood, backs directly up to homes in our neighborhood. And we had the same kind of thing, the required buffer when that development was created, now 20 plus years ago. And they planted evergreen trees along that line, as well as a privacy fence, which they were required to do at the time. Well, over time, some of those trees have died, fallen, whatever. So recently, I think probably a year ago, Kevin, I think Mitch handled it, I don't know if you did, but we noticed that one of the trees had fallen and there was basically light shining from the building into the subdivision. So we called codes and said, hey, this was required, it's not there, what can we do to fix it? They made a few phone calls and shields have been installed on those lights and the trees have been replaced. So, I know that that's my case. I didn't make that phone call, so you can't say it's because a councilman called. It was actually another neighbor in the neighborhood that made that call. But that's how it's supposed to work. And I know some people will say, I don't feel like it should be the neighbor's responsibility to help maintain it. It's all of our responsibilities to help maintain these things. Codes keeps look out for this thing as well, but we have a limited number of resources and we can't see everything. So we will have to rely on the neighbors to help make sure that that's there. The good part is if it's documented in this PRD, then it is a requirement and that requirement doesn't go away.
Other questions or comments?
I do have one more question, and these questions are in relationship to Mrs. Reasonover, who is the neighbor with all the homes that are aligned her border. But those were some of the concerns that she had when I spoke to her, and I wanted to make sure that they are addressed so that she will know
Absolutely.
how they are going to be handled. The other thing was if the plan changes, because we know that this is the initial plan, but as they get further into engineering and looking at the topo, if it changes, do they have to come back to planning for that?
Well, they'll have to come back to planning if they change anything. It's very limited what I can review administratively.
I was gonna ask, can you just give us a quick rundown,
Yeah.
like if they change the number of lots,
If
give us the idea of what they
lower
can
the number of
change.
lots, that's something I can approve administratively.
So if it gets less dense, you can approve it. If it gets
Yeah.
more dense, they have to
If it gets more
come
dense, I
back.
absolutely cannot approve additional lots.
Right.
I can't approve a change in the mix of, say, hey, we decided we're gonna put a couple dozen townhomes as part of this. That's the same number. I still can't approve that. That's not something I can approve. I can't change road layouts, or I can't change.
Did you say you can or cannot?
I cannot change that.
Okay.
I can't change, I can change, say there's 10 lots on, say, the east side of that entry road. I don't have any lots. Say there's 15 there, and there's 6 across the street, or 8 across the street. If they want to move one of those to one side of the road or the other, I might could look at something like that. Something very minor is all I can really look at. Lowering density or just some minor things. Hey, this area has we found a depression that we think might be a sinkhole. We want to move that lot, a little further closer to Rock Springs Road or something. Something very minor is all I can do administratively. And so, and I take that very seriously. I get requests from developers all the time. You've got one later on in your agenda tonight that wanted me to approve something administratively, and it was a pretty major change, and I told them no. I'm not gonna do that.
So how does,
For the neighbor's sake, as well as this council and the planning commission's sake, so.
and so that is also in addition to the fact that I know that there are percentages as to the number of homes or the size of the lots. If that were to change, is that something that has to come back before planning, or is that something that you can change
Yeah,
as
that-
well? Is that considered administrative
Yeah.
decision?
Things like that, same way with, like I say, the buffer strip, the 2 trees per lot, all those things that are being built into, they're very specific kind of conditions are being added. That's not something I would want to change administratively. That's something that's gonna have to come back through the whole process.
Okay. Okay.
You want to talk about the sidewalk and the road down there, or do you want Charles to be able to talk about that, or?
I know Charles has been much more involved in that than I have. I'm aware of it a little bit because I did watch the meeting. I was out for the last meeting. I did see the meeting.
He missed the last meeting and now he's passing it to you, Charles. I think
Yes.
Kevin is a master of deflecting this one.
Right. Well, we'll give Kevin a break on that. He's carrying the heavy load on the rest of it. As far as the road, like I said, the traffic study did say it need a left turn lane. So coming from Waldron Road up to their entrance, they will 3-lane all the way from there with sidewalk up to that point. Once you pass their entrance, it will taper back down to 2 lanes with sidewalk out to the end of their development. From there, our project will start there. We will take out a little bit of that curve And we'll just go back with just a 2-lane road with 2 foot to maybe 4 foot shoulders out to Cook's Lane. At Cook's Lane, we will put in a 100 to 200 foot left turn lane. But until that develops, we will not extend the sidewalk at that point. We will drop it at the development. That case, if those 3 lots and the lot across from Rock Springs, if that does develop, then the developer there will be required to bring it up to 3 lanes sidewalks. And that will not affect the 2-lane section there between this development and the creek, since there will never be any left turn movements in there. So it's not going to bottleneck in that area, that it will continue to flow.
But they'll be taking the sidewalk to the end of their development.
They will be taking the sidewalk from entrance on down. That will be in their 2nd, 3rd phase, which,
And it's gonna look like a sidewalk to nowhere, but somewhere down the road, you know, it will be picked up.
but it will be there. Like I said, if the other will not be done until it develops. But currently, we will just make some improvements to the road from there out to Cook's Lane, just to do the 2-lane with shoulders, so keep it as minimal as possible.
Good with that, HG? I know that sidewalk meant a lot.
Yes, I am.
Denise Esker is applauding your efforts somewhere.
Love it, love it.
But is that mayor and council, is that, are y'all approved with that to, to go ahead with and develop? Okay.
Well, I think having the 2-lane keeps the traffic slower, but when it gets to 3-lane, there's to the Waldron Road will help with traffic, so. Okay, other questions or comments for Kevin or Charles?
The comment, do we have like a, what do you call it, not a clicker, but a pointer? Because that would have been good to be able to.
A laser
yes,
pointer?
To show
Yes, I think
people
that we
where.
do.
That would have been
We can't
great.
afford one.
The batteries are dead. Nobody.
Okay, put back on the.
I just feel like that would have been
Okay.
good for the audience to know
Okay.
what parts we were talking about.
Okay, it does work. Yes, this is up here, this is the Gwen Farms, this is where Walden Road comes in. They would 3-lane from there down to their entrance site here. That will be 3 lanes, and that puts in their left turn lane into the development, and they will bring sidewalk up to here. Once they get into phase 2 and 3, like I said, that will taper down to 2 lanes with sidewalk out to the end of their property, which is here. So it will stop at this point. From this point, we will take out a little bit of that curve, a little bit of that horizontal curve there, and continue out to Cook's Lane with just 2 lanes, 2 4-foot shoulders, no sidewalk. Once we get up to Cook's Lane, we will put in 100-foot or 200-foot left turn lane onto Cook's Lane.
But taking out the curve there, taking out a little bit of the curve, you've gotten approval from the landowner on.
At this time, he's agreeable to come over on his property this way. We do not get into the tree line here in front of Ms. Reasanover's property, so that way we will push to the right since the creek pulls away from there. And the property owner here, he's in favor of it if we come back and put in a mobile slope for him on that he would be agreeable to sell that right away.
And Jeff, is that something we can go ahead and move forward with looking at doing just in case that landowner decides to?
It would, like I said, it would have to get the meets and bounds. We'd have to, if you give me the go-ahead to go ahead and hire an engineering firm to start that, we'll get survey and design and see if we can't get to that point that we can get a meets and bounds on how much area we would need on that take.
Yeah, it looks to me like based on taking that curve out, and I think you mentioned this, the sidewalk that potentially would go in there in the future would, because of the road that we're basically vacating there, we would never have to take sidewalk or property from Miss Reasanover from the hills, right?
No, and like I said, that would only happen if those
If they develop,
those
right.
3 lots and the lot across the side, if that developed, then that would come back on the developer to make those road improvements and sidewalk improvements.
Yeah, so that kind of creates kind of helps us out with the kind of the slope there on the left side of the road. if you
Right,
come out.
right, and the gentleman there, like I said, he has trouble mowing that area, so he's agreeable to sell that right away with the condition that we would put in a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 slope there that is mobile for him.
Other questions or comments?
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item, you can come forward at this time. You'll come forward and, you'll still have 3 minutes. We'll just need you to state your name, your address, and if you live in the city.
My name is Mike Slack. I live at 5229 Rock Springs in Smyrna. I'm in the city limits. And I will be affected by this development as well. I'm right there. I'm not a big fan of developments and everything, but I've been out here for 30 years. It's coming. You can't hold back the tide, and the best we can do is just hope to manage it, and manage it properly. I've tried to look at this thing from a logical standpoint. Everybody wishes we could have the half-acre lots and $1 million houses and all that, but for this property, this is just not even feasible in my opinion. And I'm no expert, but I just don't see it happening. I have looked at the changes that the developers made, and I think they're very good changes. And I think it's going to be an improvement over Gwen Farms. And I just, other than the traffic, that's the only issue we're going to have. But the majority of that traffic, in my view, because I live on Rock Springs, is more commuter from Rutherford County to Williamson County back and forth. I see it every day. I don't know that these houses are going to make that much more of a difference on that. We're going to have to address the traffic on Rock Springs to the county line at some point. It's way past discussing. So hopefully that can happen in the near future, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. Again, I've looked at it. I'm actually pretty comfortable with all the changes the developers made. I don't see any reason why Ms. Morgan can't sell a property. In my opinion, approve the rezoning.
Thank you. Okay, someone else want to speak?
Mike Odom, 6501 Lee Road.
I'm sorry, what was that first name?
Mike,
Thank you.
thank you, ma'am. We built our house down on property at 6501 Lee Road about 20 years ago. Probably 10 years ago, I stood before the council and was in the same shoes as the people that were saying that you don't want to approve this thing. And so I feel your pain, I really do. I understand. I have 11 acres there, and when we built that home, I was talking to somebody, I said, well, when the Lord calls us, we'll either be at church, work, or 6501 Lee Road. That was my plan. As I look out my front window now, they're busting down trees, acres and acres of trees across the street. The gentleman that lived behind me recently passed. Her family sold all the land behind me. And that's 10 years ago. We had a developer coming in, was going to put little cracker box houses 15 feet apart right up on my property line. And I addressed the council, and I just learned tonight that Paul Johns, who was on that council, made a provision somehow, if I didn't misunderstand, some kind of provision that development wouldn't get to him. I find that shocking. But anyway, my message to you is this family, I've known this family like my own for the better part of 40 years. There's nobody in here more rural-minded than these people. Maybe me, I don't know. They're not wired to live in a subdivision like me. I'm not wired to live in a subdivision. And I wanted to stay there at 6501 until I go home. But that's not going to happen. I'm looking around and I'm smart enough to see what's coming. And I also was advised 10 years ago, Mr. Owen, progress is coming, you can't stop it. I didn't believe it at the time, and I'm now a believer. And so everybody knows my house will be for sale pretty soon. If anybody wants to let me know. But honestly, you know, the people that have recently bought there or whatever, the people who, they're generational, I feel your pain. I really do. But folks, let these people go. They have plans, I'm sure, of getting way further out where this so-called progress doesn't touch them again. Those are my plans as well. I invite y'all to join us.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against?
Speak again? Just a few minutes.
Get the rest of your stuff.
Yeah.
If you will, just right, just for the record, if you'll state name, address, and if you will.
Ken Hill,
conceal it.
5007 Rock Springs Road.
Thank you.
And like I said earlier, I'm not opposed to development, and Lord knows, I don't want people to be told what to do and how to do it and so forth. We're just asking that this development, as y'all had said at the initial time, is be a general transition coming over. And it's gotten a lot better than what it initially was. There's no doubt about that. Century has done a lot of work, and my hat's off to them. Like Ms. Peebles, but what do we have in place to enforce that the things have been put into place so that they're going to happen? The buffer, I would only ask, bring it up around those corner lots where the court is so that that ensures y'all don't have a big viewpoint coming from Rock Springs and you see a bunch of houses. It would look worse than what you see at Gwen Farms. I'm not asking to stop it. I'm not asking to deny it. I'm asking to defer. Just let us finish a little bit of work. And I assure you, the 3 properties on the south and the big property on the north, they're not going to developers. We're all committed to that. There have been 7 developers tried to get the property across the street from us, and they just flat out told them not going to do it. They do have a prospective buyer coming in, single buyer, that will eventually build 1, maybe 2 homes on there. So if y'all want to get that plan, I'd encourage you to do it sooner rather than later. So that's all I wanted to say, just to finish off what I started, and thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question, talking about the sidewalk, and it's gonna direct it to y'all. Where it's coming to the end of their property, originally, it wasn't gonna do that, right? And that tree buffer was gonna be there. What are y'all gonna do about that tree buffer? Can I ask them that? Or no? My concern is that that tree buffer was still gonna be there, but if they put a sidewalk there, what happens to that? Because that was to keep everybody from seeing the backs of those houses, which was a big sell, because we don't wanna look at the backs of those houses.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm just
Thank
a
you.
concern.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll let you all get up and address that afterwards, if you don't mind. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Patrick Beauchesne. For 14 years, I lived inside the city limits of Smyrna at 303 Orford Drive. The last 5 at 6614 Lee Road, which is outside the city limits. I was not planning to speak tonight, but I have major empathy for the hills. This reason over that what you're going to go through, I've been going through it. I am surrounded, my wife and I are surrounded. Our acreage, most of you came out and saw back when Hidden Springs was being annexed in. Oh, did summertime. And not so much there yet, but with Gwen Farms, I think the thing that doesn't get talked about ever is what the people surrounding this are going to go through for the next 2 to 3 years. Dirt and dust in the air, nonstop consistently, drilling machines, blasting, burning of trees, ash all over your cars, all over your houses, all over your windows, all over your gutters, all over your property. Vibrating machines that can vibrate and you hear those tones inside your house from a half a mile away. Giant bulldozers, excavators, dump trucks that beep every time they go in reverse. Not to mention the damage to the road of Cooks Lane, Rock Springs, Lee Road, etc. with the dump trucks will be moving things out. The never-ending noise from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. In the last 30 days, The enjoyment we've experienced is I've had to call the Smyrna Police 3 times to come out to my property and file a complaint. The Rutherford County Sheriff has also had to come out. And then I'm so glad you brought up about changes, Ms. Peebles, because once the land clearing folks, Bison at Gwynn Farms, dropped a gigantic tree across my property, killed our fence, destroyed a whole bunch of our land, and they were getting it off our property, we learned that there was a major change with Gwynn Farms. We were supposed to have 14 houses along our west property line, and that had been changed to have 3 gigantic retention ponds. So I called and got Mr. Rose at the Stormwater, a wonderful gentleman to work with. He came out, spent time with us, a subsequent meeting with the builder and everybody come out, that plan had totally changed. And that water dumps into our pond that we have stocked with fish and built 2 years ago. Nobody notified us of this massive change, and that all this water will be coming into our property. While it's highly regulated, and I trust what Mr. Rose has his hands on and the engineers and so forth, but the fact that nobody told us about it. We knew because when they dropped that tree on our property, my wife went running out there and asked what they were doing, and the bulldozer guy proceeded to tell her all the details of these retention ponds, and they're drilling and blasting. So I have now a seismic meter in my front yard. I'm about to have a second one to measure all the blasting because it's less than 300 feet from my property. So for years and years, we'll be in this for another year at least, and the sounds will change to hammering, sawing, drywall whizzer saws, trucks, music, you name it. For 3 years, we have to endure this at least at our property. Is that fair to the people around there? Couple changes that I recommend real quick. I know there's about 10 seconds left. Heavy equipment operation, Monday through Friday, 7 a to 5 p.m. only. No weekends. It's not allowed on Sunday, but it shouldn't be allowed on Saturday. Give us a break. 5 days a week. I
3
work from
minutes,
home,
Mayor.
and I have to listen to this, and so will they.
If
So-
you have other recommendations,
I do.
if you'll email those to us,
I-
that would be great.
Thank you. I've got a
And
good list that I'll send.
Just 2 quick questions for you, just out of curiosity. You said that the police have had to be out there. What did you have to call them for?
Noise violations.
Noise violations, okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And I haven't called planning or the town. I
Okay.
didn't know I had to I guess I gotta connect those dots, and I've got the dates and times, so I'm happy to do that, because I know it's on record.
If
that-
you will send us some things that you've living through this, that'd be
Absolutely
great.
will.
We'd appreciate that.
Absolutely will. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I'm Trey Woodruff, 1512 Sugarwood Drive. I do not live inside the city limits. I represent Century Communities, and just answering the sidewalk question. Sidewalks currently, I believe, slated to go into the right-of-way, so it would be outside of where the buffer is currently being dedicated. So should not impact. We'll obviously work with Kevin and make sure that we match that up.
Both can be accomplished.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anyone else to speak for or against? If you'll come forward, state your name, address, and if you live in the town limits.
Joe Morgan, 4701 Rock Springs Road. Wasn't expecting to speak tonight, but I'm going to. Here with my mother, Mabel Morgan, soon to be 88 years old in November. Mr. Hill, you asked for more time. Honestly, I don't know how much more time my mother's got. Time is the essence for her and her property to ask for what she wants for her, in my opinion. I'm just putting it out there. Last 3 months to me, seems like I've been involved in a little league ball game here. I've watched a lot of council members and a lot of planning commission meetings and everything, and it seems like our property here has got the biggest noise, everything, debates, everything, because we've got a few unhappy parents over on the other side. I get it. I get it. But we've been out there so long, I don't want to be redundant on everything that we've already discussed over the last 3 months. I ask you to do the right thing, clear conscience, to give my mom, her property, the benefit of the doubt of the over 500 acres in the Lee Road, I-24, Rock Springs Road, Cooks Lane corridor, over 2,200 lots under this zoning. That's what I'm asking for. You want future changes? Start it at Cooks Lane, go to Williamson County, go south all the way down to whatever county we got down there, or Marshall County, wherever it goes. You got a lot of land, undeveloped land. I think if you want that future changes for what everybody's asking for, that Cooks Lane, Rock Springs, Williamson County, Rocky Fork Road is a perfect starting point. I know y'all got a lot of meetings to go through to make those changes, and I ask you to consider them on them and not make an example out of 41 acres that is already tucked in the middle of everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against this? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and I'll go to council. If you have any, I'll ask for a motion unless you have any comments or questions
I do have comments.
to it. Let's get them, if it's just comments rather than questions, let's get a motion on the floor and then,
Okay.
is that okay?
Yep.
So do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Comments?
Yeah, so I think all of us here on the council can testify to how difficult these type of decisions are. This one has been difficult. You're right, Mr. Morgan. We've had a lot of discussion and a lot of meetings about it. I think, Mr. Odom, I think you said something that I've thought for a while, but I was careful, trying to be careful not to say, but you said it, so I'm going to repeat what you said. I agree with everything that I've heard from both sides. I agree that if I was going to stay, that I bought property to have peace, quiet, and maybe not be in a subdivision, and I would like to stay that way. But I also agree with Mr. Morgan that his mom may not have a lot of time, and he has a right to sell this property, especially if they can't no longer take care of it or don't want to. And so I think Patrick Bouchane back there said something about being fair, and that's the balance, right? If we're trying to figure out what may be fair for Miss Morgan may not be fair for the Hills, or vice versa. And that's the challenge that we're facing. There's not necessarily a solution that's going to benefit both. And what you said that made sense to me was, I pulled up Google Maps, and this piece of property is less than 2 miles from what the TDOT representative said tonight was the busiest corridor in the state. I-24 corridor is the busiest corridor in the state, and this is less than 2 miles from that corridor. I don't mean this disrespectful, but it might be unreasonable to not expect that land to develop. It's going to continue to come. You know, a lot of people have the idea that if we deny this, then something doesn't happen. That's not how this works. They can still develop this property by just going to the county planning commission, and then the town has no say. Then the town has no design and has no input at all. So approving PRDs, though it looks like it's I don't know, something that we don't want to do, it's our way of being able to have input into what happens in the town. So I hear a lot of people say we've got to manage growth and we've got to take responsibility for the growth. I believe PRDs and PUDs is how we're doing that. If we don't approve these and review these, then they can develop without our input. We've seen it out Almaville Road right now. There's several developments out there that are on a step system that are using Almaville Road. They're using our school system. They're using our parks. They expect service if they call 911, and they're not paying town taxes because they developed in the county instead of through the town. And that's what we're also trying to manage, is to make sure that these developments that are adjacent to town property, when they come forward to us, that we can not only just get amenities, those are important, but we also make sure that we get something that we can balance for both sides of the equation. And I think that's the frustrating or the difficult part, because I fully see both sides of this equation, and I agree with both sides of the equation. So that's the problem that I've had with this from the very beginning. I think that this developer has, and I stated at the last meeting, they've come a long way, and they've done a lot more than probably, I can't remember a developer in the 8 years I've been on the council that's made this many concessions or this many changes in such a short period of time for a development. There's been concessions made by developers, but not to this level. And I think that's the reason that I think last time I voted to support it, I've got to vote one way or the other. I can't stay agnostic, and I feel like that we've done as much as we can do to make this as palatable as we can.
I'll piggyback on what Steve was talking about there. You know, I think the council as a whole has recognized over the course of the last year or so, maybe 2 years, that the PRDs were, that the results we were getting from the PRDs is not exactly what we wanted. And we've, of course, have started working on updating those regulations. We've already had one meeting, we've got another one coming up. And I think that when I look at the changes that were made on Maple Farms here, a lot of those are what will be instituted into the new regulations. Some are already there, but then, and as Steve said, I have never seen a development go through so many changes and bring it to standards that we asked for, standards that the neighbors asked for. You know, it's trying to be compliant and trying to keep somebody happy, and a situation where nobody's got to be happy when it gets down to the bottom line. I mean, I was told when I got on the council many years ago, if you like the view out in front of you, you better own it. And you know, we don't have any choice but to go by that standard. And I don't know, I think at this particular point, we're not going to get a heck of a lot better with this particular development, but hopefully that when we go out into the future, we can, you know, take a look at the upcoming ones and have some standards which are more palatable to the council and to the public also. So.
Let me add just this. Mr. Moore, you talked about your property and what's surrounding it, and you know that maybe you're getting beat up upon. And you know what? I think you're right. And here's why. Your property is an improvement over much of the surrounding. And I think that's a good thing. And when we talk about consistency, for me, here's what consistency means. It means making sure that we have the right type of materials on the exterior of the home. It means making sure we've got the right setbacks so we don't have cars in the roadways. It means making sure that when we do this, that we have an amenity package that helps make the neighborhood more self-contained and self-sufficient. And the other thing that I heard was we do have some discretion, and I think we saw discretion exercised here. I told Ms. Hill this after the last meeting. You made a difference. This project has changed, and it is stepping down in scope of density and the way the project's laid out than what's just to the other side of that with the wind farms. So I think there's been a lot of compromise on both sides, and I think in the end, we have a really good result here. Maybe it's not what everybody wants, but I think we have a really good result, and I think we are stepping down in density. And I said this, I said, to me, there's your line, because folks have stated, we're not moving, we're not selling, we're not doing anything with our land. That's where it stops there.
Other
And now,
comments?
go ahead.
Go, I was going to say the other comments.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and kind of jumping on what Tim said as well, and I agree. We started out with a project, I think it was mentioned out there earlier, about being consistent with the rest of the group around that, and we do have standards, but we don't always have to settle for the minimum requirements of the standards. And this has allowed us, through all the discussion, through spending extra time, it's allowed us, at least in my opinion, to get better and not just be at minimum requirement. And I've met with some of them, and we talked about some things that lot sizes and that type of thing. They came back with larger lot sizes and increased the density. So I know we'd like all of us to have something, somebody wants this and somebody wants this, and sometimes you gotta meet somewhere in the middle, and I feel like that's happened in this is with working with the group, so I appreciate all the work that's gone into it.
I think, as council, sometimes it's really difficult for us, if we don't hear from the public, whether that's positive or negative, we assume that everybody's okay, everybody's okay with what's going on. We try really hard to get as much information out, whether it's through Facebook or website or the avenues in which, and sometimes that doesn't reach everybody. We try as hard as we can to do that. But one thing I would encourage citizens, tell us give us feedback. We may not always agree. We've talked about that. I mean, Patrick and I have not always agreed, but at least we begin to understand where each other's side is, and we might also be able to make some changes. We might also be able to make things better. That's one of the reasons that we're going back and looking at what our minimums are. Do we want to change those things? Do we want to change what development looks like? If that's something that you want to see, I encourage you to come to those planning meetings that we're having and looking at PRDs moving forward, so you can give us some feedback. We can't have all 5-acre lots all over the town of Smyrna. We can't. And I don't think that's what anybody in this room is expecting us to do. But we do need to look at what do we want our community to look like. And you know what? What that looked like 10 years ago is different from what it is today. And what it looks like today is going to be different than what it looks like in 10 years in the future. So a growing community is a changing community, and we need your help and your input to know what you all want your community to look like. We're just the voice for the citizens. And I will say, not just this vote, but many votes are so difficult because you do see both sides. You see both sides, and you do want to try to make everybody happy, and that's not always possible. And you try to find the best solution that you can find. So, any other comments or questions before we
One
move
other
to
thing I
vote?
was gonna
Yeah.
add, Ms. Hill, Tim said that you'd made a difference on this development. Honestly, Ms. Reesedover and you guys and all of those folks that have been involved in this process, we've got another complex further down our agenda tonight that has incorporated the stuff that we've discussed because of the things you've raised. So you didn't just affect this development, you're gonna affect other developments all throughout town because of the work you guys have put in. And I just want you to, I honestly give you kudos for that. That's what we need from the community and from people that have good ideas. I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate all the information you provided because you gave us things to consider that we hadn't thought about.
I agree with that. I want to thank everyone for your feedback, and being able to hear both sides is always good. And the more information we can get from citizens, the better the decision that we can make. I agree with a lot that was said on both sides as well, and I feel like this still is still a tough one. But at some point, we've got to move forward with it, and there has to be some line where we are able to incorporate all the things that we've heard and that we need to move forward on how we are developing the different properties. You know, I heard some things this evening from Mr. Beauchene that, you know, those things concern me, you know. And I understand that development is going to happen, but we also need to be aware and make sure that while that development is happening, that it is not encumbering on the neighbors that are already there. So I feel like there's some things that we need to look at going forward. And I also agree that, Mr. Hill, you talked about the transitional development. And I think that's a good idea going out in this side of town. I guess I'm still a little hesitant at this point, in my opinion, as to whether or not that needs to start with this development or the next development or at Coots Lane, where we can have a clean, a good boundary line to be able to move those things forward. So for me, this actually has been a tough decision, because like you say, you want to try to do what's best, because we only get this one chance. We only get this one chance, and I want to do what I believe is right for all the citizens as best I can. So thank you all for everything that you've had to contribute. It has made a difference in the decisions that we've been making, and I encourage you to continue to voice your opinions, because it will help us going forward as well. Thank you.
I agree. I know that there's been a little bit of not so nice things going on, but I will say for the majority, people have been civil. We may not always agree, but we've tried to come to some compromise. So hopefully, whatever outcome happens tonight, we can move forward as a community and we can move forward as neighbors, which I think is so important, because this town needs us together and not separated and divided. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item E is our next public hearing, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 33, parcel 91.00 to go from R1 with ESO to C2 and PRD with ESO. It's requested by Hollingshead Land LLC. The property requested to be rezoned contains 6.24 acres and is located at the corner of Enon Springs Road West and Gamble Lane. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request, corner of Enon Springs West and Gamble Lane, as you stated. The land use plan for this area is the 24 gateway character area, which would support a mix of uses and services, kind of local and regional in scale, including hospitality, retail, restaurant, multifamily uses. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R1, R3, and C2. The request for rezoning is for 1.03 acres to be rezoned to C2, the remaining 5.21 acres to be rezoned to PRD, and that requested PRD is for 37 townhomes, which is for a density of about 7.1 units per acre. This property does lie within the Enon Springs Overlay District, so they would have to comply with all of those requirements. The proposed townhomes would be a minimum of 1,750 square feet in size with two-car garages. The architectural elevations show majority brick exteriors with concrete siding and stone also allowed. All requirements of the town with regard to parking and open space would be met. There's one access point shown to Enon Springs Road West, which is a right-in, right-out only because there is a median there. There would also be two proposed access points to Gamble Lane. The Planning Commission did review this request, recommend approval 6-4, 1 against, with three conditions. One, a type C buffer is required on the northern and eastern property lines. The applicant did propose a type A buffer with a fence in lieu of the type C buffer, and the Planning Commission did concur with that request, and the recommendation does include a type A buffer with a fence, which would be a 6-foot tall vinyl fence. All requirements of the ESO with regard to color palette, landscaping, lighting, buffering, and screening are required to be met and will be reviewed in detail with the site plan submittal that the rezoning is approved. And just number 3 was a comment from our fire department, which just wanted to ensure that they were clear that all sides of the building must be within 150 feet reach for the fire department. So with those conditions, staff would recommend approval.
Council, we've talked about this development quite a bit with first reading and then with the workshop. Do you have comments or questions for Kevin? Okay, seeing none, then I'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Hi.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Frierson at 3449 Gamble Lane. And I am completely against the townhomes being built there only because everything down through there is single family. We already have issues with littering, speeding. God forbid my grandchildren's afraid to come to the house anymore. because of the speeders that run through the neighborhood. There's just so many issues that I think should be addressed and corrected before any building is done there, but as far as townhomes, it's not even close to what we already have there. And then they're mentioning HOA, which is even worse, because I've talked to people and asked them about purchasing our home because of this, and they said because of the HOA, they're not interested. So that's gonna be really hard for us there to be able to sell, knowing that there's an HOA that close. So, I mean, I just don't like it. I don't like the townhome idea at all. I'm not against building. Change is going to come, obviously, but it's sad to see that we've seen a lot of our neighbors move because of the construction. My direct neighbors already consider moving because of medical issues and having to deal with the blasting and all this stuff, and it's sad for the community right now. So I appreciate you guys' time, and thank y'all for everything you do, because I know it's really hard for you guys to have to do what you do up here.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and go to council for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this request. We'll talk about it in a second, I guess.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, so this is really kind of geared toward your comments. This particular thoroughfare right here, Enon Springs Road West, we laid, some time ago, we laid an overlay down over this area in preparation to connecting, this becoming a connector road over to Williamson County. And so I understand that this is R1 now, but the future is that it will not remain R1. And this fits the design, the plan that we had with putting denser properties up closer to the thoroughfare and then single family or R3 further out. And for that reason, it's exactly what we said we wanted in this corridor when we laid it down originally. So for that reason, I'm saying.
So, Kevin, talk a little bit, so give us a little bit of an education lesson. Council already knows this, but for some that are in the audience, they might not know, or for some that are at home might not know. Talk a little bit about an overlay, what an overlay is for, and what our overlay looks like on Enon Springs Road West.
Yeah, an overlay is something, it's like a second layer, an overlay, so to speak, a second layer of zoning. It doesn't affect what's allowed as far as the uses allowed in it, on the property or anything like that. But what it does is it adds additional requirements for architectural requirements, landscaping, screening, buffering, things of that nature. What I think what Mr. Councilman Sullivan was talking about was kind of our land use plan for that area. And we looked at it, we called it our gateway overlay with the hoped for interchange at Enon Springs Road at some point. But this would be an interstate gateway into Smyrna, and we wanted it to look nice and be developed well. So that was, the overlay was kind of an implementation of that land use plan that we adopted back in 2020, I guess, 2021. And so, again, the definition of overlay is basically just another layer of zoning. What this one specifically does is to implement that vision of what we hope to see as an interstate connector road.
And denser things being towards the road and
The
then
main
it
road,
moving
yes,
back,
and moving back as
to
you
become
go.
less
And
dense.
certainly, obviously, the closer you get to the interstate, more dense.
More dense.
Yep.
Can I address the HOA for you? The HOA would actually only apply to this property. It would not apply to any other adjacent property, so you wouldn't be brought into the HOA. HOAs are beneficial, and I think they would address what you're concerned about as far as littering, upkeep, maintenance, things along this property. So an HOA is very beneficial in that it helps to maintain the quality of a development, and it's not something that's just left to the individuals, because I can assure you, even in my neighborhood, you've got lots of varying degrees of of care. Now, we do have an HOA and you know, they can be called in to help correct situations. But for the adjacent neighborhood to us, the HOA does not apply.
Other comments or questions?
I know we're talking about density and having it be more dense and less dense as it goes back, but this one was one that was somewhat more dense. And Kevin, I don't remember what the number was, but if it had been in a different location, it would have been enough that it would have met the R6, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I mean, it's an R6
Okay.
level of density, even though it's not quite as dense as an R6 could be. It is an R6 for a straight zoning district.
Okay.
When this first came up, at least when I looked at it, when I was looking at the home right there next to it, and I was trying to put myself in their shoes, and what would I want if I was there? And it kind of came down for me was, okay, how does it transition from commercial to that residential? And I personally thought that those townhomes was the best thing. I know we had something come up before us several years ago, and had to do with someone wanting to put a Dollar General, and the homes in behind there was completely against that Dollar General. And yeah, and they came back and the homeowner, and so they ended up putting the condos there to buffer it off. So I don't know if that's something that you guys like, but I know, just putting myself in your shoes, I thought, okay, if it was gonna be me, which one would I want to transition between this commercial piece of property and my property? And that's the reason that I supported this particular project.
Well, let me also go back and say, I'm not against their townhomes, it's just the number of townhomes and how dense it is in this location.
Other comments or questions?
Yes, ma'am. I don't like the density of this at all. I mean, it's just one of those that's it's just too close. Not enough green space on it. But that's really irrelevant because that's what we have set up there with the overlay. And it's kind of like you make an agreement with somebody and you follow through on your agreement. And, you know, with the overlay being there, it's hard to do something else. But my thoughts are that we need to revisit that overlay. And not because I think we got it wrong the first time, but it's just that things have changed since then, in the fact that it's just like the TDOT people are telling us, we're not going to get that interchange anytime soon. And that's a hard one to take because we worked so hard on it for so many years and thinking that, okay, here we go, we have a new entrance into our community. And I don't know if anything, you know, drastic needs to be changed about it, but I think we need to take a look at it and see how the overlay applies now with the new lay of the land, with the changes at I-24 and such as that. So that's all I've got.
I do want to say, though, this is a quality project in regards to two-car garages, all brick. I mean, it's going to be a nice project, so.
Yes.
1,700 square feet minimum size, 3 and 4 bedrooms. Yeah, it's gonna be nice compared to others.
So, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F is public hearing, consideration of an ordinance amending the text to the Smyrna Municipal Zoning Ordinance, Article 3, General Provisions.
Yes, this is a text amendment. This would change the expiration date for site plans approved by the Planning Commission from 1 year to 3 years. Currently, the zoning ordinance states the site plan approval is valid for 1 year from the day of the Planning Commission meeting approval, with an option for an extension of the approval up to 6 months by staff if the applicant has submitted construction plans for review and request that extension prior to the expiration. This would change the expiration date to 3 years from the date of the planning commission approval. And does remove the possibility of an extension of the approval by staff, so it is just a flat 3 years. This is being proposed to bring the ordinance into compliance with state law regarding the vesting of development rights. The planning commission did review this and recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this?
How often do we have them to expire? They have to come back?
Quite a bit on the 1 year.
So is it like a pain to y'all too then?
Well, I don't know if it's a pain, it's just, there's an extra little level of work you have to do. It's not that big of a deal, but it's more of a work for them. And often they come back to planning commission, they bring the same plan in, it gets reapproved again. So it's more of it's more work for us in that regard. And the developers, oftentimes they're ready to go. It just took them, sometimes it's getting the financing lined up or whatever happens, the property takes a little longer to close and it just takes them longer to actually get to the point they're ready to actually begin
They have to pay the
development.
fees again too, don't they? We save them some money there then too.
Ben, can you talk about this last sentence a little bit? This is being processed, proposed to bring it, the ordinance in compliance with state law regarding the vesting of development rights. What does that mean exactly? Did state law change that makes us go to 3 years? What-
You know,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
thought you said
I
Jeff.
forgot you were there. I said Ben. Sorry, Jeff. Forgot you were there.
Then you gonna hurt his feelings.
I dealt with Mitch on this, but he can take it. So basically, you know, the vesting statute has been in place for several years now. And this was one piece that we had not moved over there, but a court, we believe, and so does MTS and everyone else, that a court would opine that vesting would apply to site plans. So you have a statutory 3-year period, and then as you have phases and stuff, obviously that can change. But we believe to avoid that challenge, that this was the best move to make to be.
Yeah, so basically, we're suggesting this change to avoid the 1 year being challenged and probably lost in court. Gotcha.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing, go to council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item G is our last public hearing. It's a consideration of an ordinance relative to a budget amendment for the fiscal year 24-25 relative to the natural gas fund. Hey Rex, I didn't know you were here.
Thank you. The budget amendment for $120,000 in additional revenue will bring us into compliance with the comptroller's statutory net position requirement. I'm asking that you approve this amendment.
Questions for Rex on this? Seeing none, we'll go to the yes?
You're right.
Oh, okay, I thought you said I was gonna say uh-oh. We'll go to the public, see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll go to council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are now on to new business, and our first item is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and PRD zoning of property located on tax map 73, parcel 19.02, requested by Kyle Griffin with CSDG on behalf of Brian Scott and Angela Dawn Helton, containing 115.46 acres. The property is located at 140 Queen Cliff Court.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an annexation request, along with the PRD zoning district requested as part of it. It is at 140 Queen Cliff Court, does have access to Drew Street. The land use plan will support medium density, single family in this area. Surrounding zoning is the Linwood PRD in town and RM in Rutherford County. The town would be providing all services to this area upon annexation except for water, which would be provided by CUD. They have indicated they do not have adequate fire flow to this area at this time. This property would be served by the Stewart's Creek force main / trunk line sewer extension. The proposed PRD is for 346 single-family lots on 115.46 acres, so it's almost exactly 3 units per acre. Access would be from Drew Street, and 3 future connections to the Linwood development would not connect to Queen Cliff Court or the Stonewood development to the south. The proposed PRD has 3 different lot widths and sizes proposed, with the largest lots proposed along the border with the Stonewood development. House sizes would range from 1,600 to 3,000 square feet. Houses would have a minimum 30% brick or stone on the front elevations. Side and rear elevations would have a brick or stone water table of 1.5 to 3 feet tall. The remainder of the elevations would be finished with brick, stone, or concrete siding. All requirements of the town with regard to setbacks, parking, and open space would be met, with one added requirement that the side setbacks would be 10 feet and not 7.5. Proposed amenities for the development do include a pool and pool house, pickleball courts, playgrounds, and several walking trails. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval, 5-4-0 against, 1 abstention, with 3 conditions. 1, a traffic study will be required to be submitted, and any improvements required by that study will be must be completed by the developer. Development will require submittal for a floodplain development permit from the town, as well as review by FEMA for any necessary Lomar applications. And the no disturb buffer area along the common property line with the Stonewood development must have a dimension of at least 50 feet. That is consistent with what was required when the Linwood development was approved several years ago. So with those conditions, staff would recommend approval.
We did receive an email that you should have gotten that they did not get under staff comments. Under public comments soon enough, and that's what you see in front of you. Tim, anything you want to add on this one?
Well, I know that we've tossed around the word minimum or with requirements and whatnot that way, but this exceeds what we currently have in place, and it more closely mirrors what we're moving towards as we revisit our PRDs. The lots to the adjacent Stonewood are bigger. We have variations in size. We have upgraded exteriors. We have cross connections to neighboring subdivisions that's going to allow traffic to flow both ways and not just Amable Road. I really believe that they listened to what we were talking about, and they brought this forward, and it is an improvement.
I know some of the things that we had heard from the Stonewood community was they did not want access through their community, which was taken out. Increase the buffer to 50 feet between them.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it was brought in with a 50-foot buffer.
Okay. Removed the 40-foot lots, and now there's just 50, 60, and 75.
Right.
And then their side setbacks, our minimums are 7.5, and they've gone to 10. Other questions or comments, council?
Through construction, will be entirely accessed through Drew Street, is that correct?
Drew Street or the Linwood development.
Where's Linwood these days?
Linwood. They've had their sketch plat approved. I know so much of the development there is really kind of the Briley Downs development is kind of the linchpin for sewer and different things. We've had we haven't had the CDs or anything, I don't think, yet on Linwood, but I think I know they had their sketch plat and they are looking at this. This ties into that, as well as the Reverie Music City development and Briley Downs. All those are going to tie together, and it's really kind of that Briley Downs is kind of has to happen first from the sewer standpoint before the rest of them can start. So.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Kevin, I met with the gentleman and had a few questions. I think, first of all, we talked about home sizes. It says 1,600 to 3,000. That's not including the garage, I believe, from my understanding.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
And if I'm also correct, and I think that's what they told me, that some of them they could really only go to 3,600 due to, if they went above that, it would have to have fire protection. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. The fire code, if a house is larger than 3,600 square feet on the roof, you do have to have a higher fire flow requirement met. And so that, you go from 1,000 gallons per minute to 1,500 gallons per minute. So you have to either keep it under 3,600, or if you do go above and you don't have 1,500 gallons, you would have to put a fire sprinkler system in the house.
The other thing that I had asked was, and they didn't have the answer, and they told me that they would get me an answer if this made it through first reading, between first reading and second reading, but I was wanting to know what the breakdown was going to be as far as home sizes. And I know they're looking, according to discussion, on the lots that are larger, where that 50-foot buffer is, that's where they're looking, I think, at larger homes, because the lots are larger. But I think that worked out to somewhere around 10% of those lots were fairly large. That's somewhere around 30 out of the 300 and something. So I think they're going to try to get me an answer there. I guess the last question is, where is, and they've done a lot of work, I agree with what they've said, they've done a lot of work since the first time we talked about it. As far as the traffic study, how far, what's the range of that traffic study? To what extent is that going to? I know, is it going to bottle, we have it there, but is it going to have a bottleneck down in the, say, the Hamill Road toward the interstate?
Yeah, and we'd have to sit down with whoever they hire as a traffic engineer to scope that study with all, I mean, there's several traffic studies we've asked for in that area with all these new developments. I would really like, what I would like to see is they all get together and have one traffic study for everybody, because that's really, if we piecemeal it and this guy needs to add this much of a turn lane and this guy needs, or whatever, I mean, if we need to look at the full effect of everything.
Do we determine that, or does somebody else determine?
We sit down, primarily, Mr. King sits down with the traffic engineer and comes up with that scope.
Because I sure would like to see that down into that area where we know we've already got an issue.
Certainly. Yeah, and a lot of that, depending on the amount of traffic generated, kind of dictates some of that as far as we have 3 tiers of what a study requires and how far out and at what level, how far out the intersections you look at to study and those kind of things.
Thank you.
Can we require that they all get together to do that?
I don't know if can or not. I mean, that's the
Counselor.
Those are all approved already, and they're required to do a study. Everybody that's out there is required to do a study.
Could we spearhead that we ask them to do that?
There's a lot of cross.
If we do that, I don't know about going back and making it.
But yeah, I think we can sort of have that conversation with them.
Highly encourage them?
Highly encourage them. There's a lot of engineers working for different developments, the same people, and there's some developments are different.
So you're saying the
same
engineers
developer
need to work
working doing
together?
different developments somewhat, so I think there's an opportunity there. It's kind of an economy of scale for them too, I would think.
What would we need to do to?
I think we just need to, some of them are in the room today, I know.
Do you think they're understanding that they're being highly encouraged to get together and do that?
Why don't we just ask Kyle?
I think it would be best for the overall area. And then I think the other thing we've got to be talking about is continuing to talk to our state representatives about how much that we need Amable Road itself to be looked at and improved. I mean, I think Amable Road is Jefferson Pike, what it was when most of us got on the council, so. I guess, other questions or comments?
You said there's not adequate fire flow yet there. That being said, how does that also affect the other developing subdivisions? If
They
there's
have the
not
same
adequate
problem.
flow there?
Yeah. A lot, it's like the Linwood, they've got some of the same problems. I mean, there's, CUD is, I know they're working with CUD on some, what they call facilities improvement, or something like that, plan for what they have to do to make that happen. So, and that basically has to happen before they can get permits, building permits. So
Okay.
they have time, obviously, to work through that, but, and for those improvements to get made.
So how many other surrounding developments, including this, does that affect the fire flow issue?
I know part of Linwood is okay. I think at some level they have, everything on what the elevation they have to get to. I mean, they're talking some pretty major improvements there. I can't remember Barley Downs and the Reverie Music City, where they were at. I can't recall on that.
So you don't know if they're affected by it or not?
I'm not, I know Linwood, there's some improvements they're gonna have to make at some point. I don't know if I think maybe their first, we're looking at those first 200 lots and whatnot that we have with our agreement with them. I think they were okay in some of those at least. But at some point they're gonna get to an elevation high enough that they're gonna have to have there's talking about a new tank and different things up there, so.
Okay.
Other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
I've got a question about the picture that's shown. I see that it says amenities rendering is conceptual and subject to change. How much is it subject to change?
Again, it's pretty limited to what I can approve administratively. So, I mean, they're showing a pool, they're showing the courts, the trails, all those things are being shown. If they move a little bit, maybe in a little bit different location, I can approve it. If they want to change it and say, hey, we're not going to do a pool, it's something they're going to have to come back.
But the things that they're saying on here or showing us is pretty much what they're going to commit to doing.
Right.
Okay.
Other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Kevin, if you can get those numbers that Jerry had asked for prior to our packets coming out, if you could
Yeah.
get those for us, that'd be great. And if you also can work on the gathering everybody together to do a traffic study, that'd be nice.
And also, I'll try to get an answer to Ms. Peoples' question regarding the fire flow for those surrounding
On those other,
communities.
and which other ones? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to, item 2, which is consideration of an ordinance amending the approved PRD for tax map 28, parcel 44.24, requested by Spencer Sanders on behalf of Sam Ridley Apartment Partners WB LLC. The property requested contains 39.11 acres and is located on Sam Ridley Parkway West and Motlow College Boulevard.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is PRD amendment that didn't approve administratively, so it's coming back to you all. This is on Sam Ridley Parkway West. It also has frontage on Motlow College Boulevard and Jeannie Lane. Land use plan is the Sam Ridley corridor character area, kind of regional scale mixed use commercial development as well as mixed residential, office, medical, personal services, those types of things are appropriate in this corridor. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R6 and C2. The currently approved PRD for this property would allow 350 apartments, 80 single-family homes, and 16 duplexes, which are obviously 32 units, for a total of 462 residential units. It's a density of about 11.82 units per acre. The proposed PRD amendment would allow for 330 apartments and 130 townhomes, so a reduction of 2 units and a density of 11.76 units per acre, so a slight reduction. The proposed amendment would maintain the all rental nature of the existing approved PRD. All requirements of the town regarding parking and open space would be met. The previous PRD did include a pedestrian connection to the YMCA. That is still shown. In addition, the on-site amenities to include a pool, clubhouse, dog parks, and a playground. The architectural elevations show a mix of brick and concrete siding on all buildings, with elevations that face a public street to be enhanced with additional brick and other architectural features. Access would be from Jackdaw Drive, Jeannie Lane, and Motlow College Boulevard, so no direct access to Sam Ridley Parkway for this development. The Planning Commission did review this request, did recommend approval with the condition that they submit an updated traffic study, as the study for this site was done over 5 years ago. So any improvements recommended by that study will be required to be completed by the developer. And with that condition, staff would also recommend approval.
Okay, so we had currently approved the PRD, and I think this was the development out of Florida, wasn't it? That was gonna be the all
Tampa,
rental.
Florida, yes.
Okay, but when we approved it back then, it had the apartments, but it had the single family, but it wasn't 4 cars on a pad, right?
That's correct. And the single family area and the duplex area, it's basically the same layout in that regard. The townhome area kind of north of that main access point from Jeannie Lane, that was where the 1 and 2 family was at. South of it was all apartments. They do have that small area of townhomes there on that south side. But yes, they were meeting what our requirements were at the time from a parking standpoint.
Right.
And the townhomes here will meet our requirements of 4.5 spaces per unit. The apartments, we still require only 2 per unit on apartments, or they're actually exceeding that as well. Again, with the mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms that you see in a lot of the apartments, we didn't really see the need to increase the parking requirement there.
So, Kevin, on the map, it's a little confusing. In the townhome section, it looks like there's driveways in front of each townhome, but then there's also this overflow lots. Are the 4 per townhome the overflow lots?
I think
Is that, or is there 4 parking spots in front of the townhome?
There's 2 in front of each townhome, and then there's the lots nearby that are the additional
Okay,
2, and then there's the extra half space per unit as well.
So they have enough
Those
parking places for 4 per unit, but
Right.
they only have 2 in front of each unit.
Correct.
So if they had a 3rd or 4th car, they're gonna be parking in an overflow lot,
They're
maybe
gonna
2 or
park in
3
front,
houses away
but
or whatever.
But the spaces are there to account for that.
I guess that worries me, just because we've worked so hard to get 4 cars on a pad.
Yeah, so what was different about the previous one? They still only had 2 in front of the townhomes.
Yeah.
Did they have enough parking spots for 4?
They did not.
So
Yes,
this
our requirement was
does
for that.
allow for more parking than what they proposed
Correct.
initially.
Correct. Those also, and we don't count the garages, these units do all have garages. The previous did not have garages at all.
So, yeah, so I like a few things, right? I know the reduction in units is only 2, but it's still 2 less units. The apartments is actually 20 less apartments, which is nice. I don't like that they're getting rid of the 80 single family, but I kinda am glad they're getting rid of the duplexes. And the parking before is a concern, because that's why we changed the parking ordinances, because it didn't account for enough parking. And this now meets the new requirements for parking. So I don't love the change. I'd rather have the single family, but also I think, I don't know, the more parking is a big factor. We've seen that in Amberton and a couple other subdivisions that it really creates a problem.
Well, and I don't know, is there enough parking for the apartments that the apartments wouldn't be using the parking for?
Yeah, he said they're exceeding it.
Okay.
I mean, keep in mind, originally this was R6.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
this
it's
could've-
always been
but-
apartments,
and-
yeah.
And that would have led to, this could have been just all apartments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're wanting to come back and change it does give us the opportunity to tweak some things if there's something that we want to tweak. Kevin, talk a little bit about the backside. They said they were gonna do extra things on the backside of where you're gonna see it down Jeannie Lane, because that's gonna be a major, it's gonna be a major road that people will be cutting through there on the townhomes there.
Yeah, there's the
They're gonna do
townhomes.
extra.
Yeah. It's not just Jeannie Lane, it's also the apartments along Sam Ridley.
Yeah.
The apartments visibility, there is
Montlow.
one building that's gonna actually back up to the cul-de-sac there at Jackdaw Drive. It's additional brick, as part of that, whereas all of the, like the first floor. And then there's some breakdown, there's some additional, as far as what they did with some of the roofs, additional roof on, like peaks on the roof and different things on the back, to kind of break it up so it's not just a flat kind of typical rear of a townhome look.
So we don't end up with what we had on Rock Springs, even though it was homes.
Right. So, and so there's that again, and they did the same similar idea, differentiated on the apartment buildings as well, like say the ones that are going to be visible from San Francisco Carpenter, those elevations.
Yeah, I think that's kind of important. This map doesn't really do the elevation changes in this piece of property. It doesn't
Right.
really do it justice. That, there's a pretty good sized cliff pretty much along
is.
most of this property.
Is this the same developer that has Barlow behind it back there?
No,
They're two different developers?
just different development.
Is this the one where the fire department had some concerns about getting in and out?
I
Or no?
don't,
This wasn't it?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Kevin, talk a little bit about the building materials.
Well, it's a brick and concrete siding as far as the mix. Like I said, there's on the fronts, they'll have more brick than the rear, other than those elevations that have the visibility from the public street. They'll have more brick on those.
Is there a pattern book? Maybe that's where I'm confused. Maybe is that the back? The pattern book's not showing hardly any brick.
Well, on some of the units that are not, they're kind of the more internal, that's probably the case, yeah.
Kevin, on that map up there, why is the upper area of the road, an area of it looks like it's delineated? It looks like a snake going through there.
I think that's possibly, part of that's that is the kind of the private drive, but I think part of that's it may be the auto turn, showing the fire truck routing. Maybe part of that, just showing if they can make those turns and those kind of things. That's what kind of way, it looks like it's highlighted. I think that must be the plan that Mark used when he created the map.
So Kevin, I'm looking at the clubhouse. Can you see it on, do you have,
Let me go get I don't have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Far enough, maybe.
on the rendering with the cars and the people and all that, it looks like, you know, there's some variation in regards to the roof, it looks like there's some wood and all that, but then when you get to the next one, maybe I'm just not looking at it right, but it all looks the same color,
It honestly looks like a school.
yeah.
It looks very
Institutional.
basic.
Yeah, you have the brick on the frontage, kind of, this is again facing the streets, and some brick, but there's quite a bit of the hardy, different types of siding, kind of lap siding and vertical and horizontal.
They're calling it elevation 4, and clubhouse elevation 4, elevation 3, elevation 2. I mean, I can't tell what's the front, what's the back.
1 and 3 would be the elevations that would have
brick,
more visibility.
Okay.
They would be facing either Sam Ridley, well, 1 would be facing Sam Ridley, 3 would be facing the cul-de-sac street there. So that's where you see more brick, other elevations.
Basically saying 4 would face back in towards the unit.
We just need CPR.
I mean, the pictures, it doesn't look so bad.
What? Dry out all the gray.
It is, and I guess, I mean, but when you look at the picture above it, it looks a little more inviting.
Which, on page 7 or 8? Which one?
Yeah.
Oh.
The one, I mean, it looks a little more inviting there. It's got some wood on it, but I don't think that's that.
And it has the percentages. Do you see that, which, with the brick and the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It
that's
just
what I was
seems like
thinking,
it's
is
a
maybe
lot.
they're just trying to show the percentage breakdown. 25% brick.
Yeah, I don't think we're necessarily through the colors.
No.
And what I'm saying is, I don't know that this necessarily means these are the colors they're using.
But based on what we're wanting, since it is a PRD, is that not what we need to make sure they understand and what we're wanting?
Kevin, how many floors are these apartment buildings?
Some of them are 4, some of them are, there's kind of stuff like one side's 3-story, one side's 4-story.
Yeah, because it looks like.
Based on the elevation changes like Mr. Sullivan was talking about. So they are, we do have the water, drive aisles and those kind of things for the fire truck needs in those areas.
Did we not make other apartment buildings in the, not necessarily the other end of the development, but the other end of that large parcel there, put in elevators at 4 stories?
We have required apartments to put in elevators in town. I can't recall. We did it on,
Alta Depot.
We required TDK on that, didn't we?
on some of their units. On some of their units they did, yeah. Some of their,
On Lane, we did.
yeah, certainly on all the depot projects. That was what I was thinking about, off the top of my head, I remember.
I thought the ones that just opened down on Old National Highway had to have them, didn't they?
They do, they've got, in some of their future phases, they don't have, they don't all have, all interior corridor type.
I mean, it's required at 4 stories, right?
Sprinklers or elevators?
Elevators.
I remember the depot, we asked for them and Mr. Sullivan did, and they did it.
Yeah, they had it in like 2 buildings, and I asked them to put them in all 6. Yeah, you're right. I don't think it was a requirement.
But I thought at 4 stories it was automatic. Is that not right?
I think it's just the sprinklers.
Yeah, I think it's their sprinkler system for sure. They,
Anything at 4 stories is
I don't know if they may have, they're not showing a lot of external, steps of these. But they're gonna be internally, you're gonna access these internally. So it could be that they don't, they have elevators. I don't know, we've asked that question.
No, ADA requires it on commercial for over 4 floors.
Over how many?
He said
Four.
commercial.
Once you
Over
get
three.
four, but 88 was,
Okay.
commercial, I'm not sure what's,
For me, I'm not opposed to the project or anything. There's just some things I'd like to see dressed up, to look a little bit, better. The last page, I guess one thing I have an issue with is they all look the same when you get to the townhomes. It looks like they're all just the same, one after another after another. But I will, how do you all feel?
I kind of the same way. I'm not opposed to the development at all, but, you know, it sounds like there's a new, I guess, look being taken. And I'd really, if nothing else, I'd love to talk to the developer and just have a conversation to see, can we vary the elevations a little bit? Is there anything else we can do to fix some of the things we're seeing now? I mean, I realize that I don't want to deny it because they could come back with what was already approved, and that doesn't get us anywhere either. So I'd like to have a conversation.
Well, I mean, I think when you look at the apartments that are behind this,
Yeah.
they look really good. I mean, they're a really nice, and I think these may be just as nice, but I just want the look to be, because honestly, these will probably be seen more than what those are in the back. So
Yeah, these are on the road, so.
is the developer here? Would you like to come to the firing squad? So, Kevin, can you can you,
Thank you, sir.
so, do you kinda understand where we're coming from?
I think so. I think
Okay.
I think I've heard some of the comments. I would like to make sure I understand. And we're happy to
Okay.
address things and work with you to make sure everybody's happy, so.
Yeah, I think, you know, I kind of like actually the changes you made for the townhomes, less apartments and kind of getting rid of duplexes. I like all of that part of it. What I would like to see is in some of your, and I don't know how to direct you to it, but you've got it listed as enhanced rear elevation and typical elevation of your townhomes. Is the drawing that's how you have it diagrammed. It looks like 10 units that look identical. And, you know, varying the streetscape, maybe adding dormers, taking dormers off, just varying the look would go a long way in making it just more appealing, right? And so I'm not even saying change the number of units or what's inside, I'm saying just make it look a little more.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. Well, I try to avoid saying it's ugly, but I just don't like it. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and that's the same thing like the clubhouse, you know, you got some renderings with the clubhouse that have like people and trees and stuff in it. That looks great. I mean, it honestly reminds me of the D.R. Horton building that's out in Seven Oaks, right? So it's very similar. But then the elevations that you have below it looks literally like a side of a school cafeteria or a gymnasium. And I don't know if I'm just looking at it wrong, or is that just trying to show the materials and not really the building design, or what am I seeing there?
Some of it's materials and colors. In some of our initial renderings, we actually had introduced the same sort of wood look siding that you see on the apartments on the front of the clubhouse. And in response to some initial comments, we were trying to increase masonry where that was facing Sam Ridley. We can certainly pull some of that masonry back down on the clubhouse and pull that wood look back in. I know our design team was a big fan of that initially. So we're happy to, I mean, that's an easy change and would go back to kind of how some of our initial elevations and renderings look.
Yeah, I
So
think-
you would get that wood look on the front in addition to the masonry.
I think it just breaks it up a little bit. It just seems very monotone, and I think for me, that's kind of what, when you get to the townhomes, it's kind of the same thing. It all just looks like,
I think that's the rear. Both of these are the rear, because up here you got a front elevation that shows the garage doors. But still, I mean,
But it's
the
still
roof lines are all
yeah.
basically the same.
I also think part of what you're getting in the rendering of the clubhouse that you're not getting in the elevations is you're able to see that wood kind of in the portal in the entry, which really kind of calls out the entry that you don't see in elevation because it kind of disappears when you're looking at those flat elevations. But that same wood look is what we had on the wings of the clubhouse, where you see that masonry. We had that same wood look for a part of that, so we can absolutely bring that back.
Yeah, and probably just adding something other than grayscale might help too. It's just different shades of gray.
I agree, I think the wood works. So, is that something between,
First and second reading?
it does have to come back for a second, when we're amending, right? Yes, okay. Is that something we, over the next 30 days, could
Yes, ma'am.
work to?
Absolutely. And we're happy to work directly with you, but absolutely, we can get that addressed very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to sit down and look at any examples or anything between now and then, so reach out.
Perfect. We can do that.
We just cannot do it as a group.
Together, right?
We have to do it
Individually.
individually.
Understood. We'll put some
Okay.
stuff together and be happy to arrange the meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. Other comments or questions?
Now, based on, you know, his willingness to work with us, I think that'll work. And if he can make those changes in 30 days, you know, if we don't see the changes, then we either defer second reading or we deny second reading, right? I think we could move forward and rely on those changes.
Okay, I do have to ask the question. Who decided to use the word fenestration?
It's an architectural word for the amount of window.
Windows, yeah.
Right. So
You don't
I
see
didn't
that
see
on
it.
there?
Where is it?
It's
our
on each
architects
one of
like
the
to,
blocks that's showing the percentage.
Fancy
Oh.
word for windows.
Yeah.
Oh, you've given Jeff Peach a new word. He will be using it. He's writing it down, right? Do you need him to spell it? Oh, it's old for
You
you.
got to get
That's
up
old.
earlier than that.
Oh, earlier than that.
You telling me that was on your Gilbert calendar years
Got
ago?
it. Okay, can we have some discussion about the parking
absolutely.
on the townhomes? Is there any way to get the 4 on a pad as opposed to having to do 2 in the,
Each townhome also has a 2-car garage. So it's a 2-car garage, 2 on the pad, and then we have the additional parking intermixed in the lots. We would see a substantial density loss in trying to get 4 on a pad in front of each townhome.
You need to say yes.
so, look, let's just be honest
Chief
with
is
each
trying to help
other. Let's just be honest with each other. Nobody uses their garage to, or the largest percentage do not use their garage to.
It's storage.
That's right. And I do appreciate that you've given enough extra parking outside that I've just seen too many, before we required this, that they're parking on the street because they want to be right there. They want to get out of their car and go straight in. So, I will just say that is a concern for me.
Yeah, so I guess where I'm kind of confused in your numbers is, I assume this is what you're classifying as single family, right, the townhomes?
Correct.
And you've listed 325 spaces, and then 260 are driveway. So I see you got 130 units, that's 2, okay, I see what you're doing. So then the other 2.5 are the 325 spaces. I got you, okay. I'm following now.
Correct.
Just when I said it out loud, it makes more sense than when I was reading it.
And we can certainly go look at it. I mean, the 2 per townhome are in front of the townhome. If, you know, the parking is laid out such that there are spaces that are intermixed in sort of those pods of parking between townhome buildings, but there are also areas where those spaces are directly across from those townhomes.
See, all these extra spots are in front of the town. Yeah. There's parking adjacent to every building, additional parking adjacent to every building, it looks like. Yeah, what's the length of the driveways, do you know that? Because what we're concerned about, if you've got a car, let's say a 4-door truck or whatever, is it gonna be blocking sidewalks?
think that's right. I was looking at Spencer to see if you knew that off the top of your head.
We didn't know there was more.
I've got a couple of people I can pull up.
Keep a low profile.
They're trying to stay out of the crossfire.
That's right. So if you could, for next time, if we could just know that the cars are out of the way enough, if people are walking on the sidewalks and things that,
And I'm assuming drive aisles and stuff will be, and this is really for Kevin, fire trucks, stuff's like that, be able to get down through there.
Correct.
No matter what, right?
Correct.
Yeah, 6
Okay.
apartments.
Driveways are about 19 to 20 feet.
So.
Which is what you would typically see on for 2D.
You mean inside of the sidewalk, 19 feet? That doesn't include to the road, that's not to the road, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, other comments or questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve, it's not part of my motion, but I'm gonna caveat it without substantial changes, I would not accept it in second reading the way it is right now. But in the spirit of making changes and moving forward, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it.
So the motion is to approve.
To approve.
Got it. Do we have a
But
second?
that second part was really directed to him.
Okay, got it.
If it's just like
So we
this
can have
next
that in
month, I'm
discussion.
denying.
Okay, so motion and do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, and questions or discussion? We'll look forward to hearing from you over the next 30 days.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Item B, consideration of an appointment of one member to the town's IDB board to serve an unexpired term ending in 2027. And to it. Now my thing's all messed Okay, applications for this. The first applicant was Marquenta Richardson. And okay, Amber, I'm having trouble. I don't have the second one. I can't get my,
It was Dalton Hidalgo, I believe.
Okay,
Yes,
and Dalton Hidalgo.
And it is, council nomination and majority vote.
okay. So, I'll open the floor for nominations. Okay, so you'll nominate Marquenta. Do I have any other nominations?
Nominate Dalton Hidalgo.
Okay, so since both were nominated and, we will vote. So, all in favor of, Marquenta Richardson, is that gonna be the best way? All in favor of Marquenta, Richardson, say aye. Okay, and
So before you vote, can I make a comment? Sure. She actually had applied last month and had been the only person, but this is the one that got lost in the mix of individuals. And so we couldn't vote on her at the last meeting, but no one else had applied at that time. And so it ended up having to roll over for a month.
Okay.
Which is when you got the additional individuals.
Okay. Okay, so, 2 for, Amber, why don't you just do roll call vote as to who each person wants? It's either Dalton Hidalgo, and that way we can hear everybody, or Marquenta Richardson.
Okay, Councilwoman Peoples?
Miss Richardson.
Okay. Councilman Cole?
Mr. Hidalgo.
Councilman Morel?
Mr. Hidalgo.
Councilman Short,
Ms. Richardson.
Councilman Sullivan,
Mr. Hidalgo.
Mayor Reed.
Mr. Hidalgo. So, if y'all could get in touch with him about the IDB board. And then we have consideration of an appointment of one Town of Smyrna staff member to serve on the Rutherford County Library System Board for a term of 3 years ending in June of 2027. And this is mayor to nominate one staff member to serve a 3-year term ending in June of, this is mayor's nomination confirmed by majority vote. And I will nominate Ben Gross to serve on the library board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I vote twice on that?
Congratulations, Ben.
Can I add there, we also still have another appointment that we're still taking applications for, and I think I'm gonna try to do that maybe next month. But, that should be out on the website. Amber, is that right? And
Correct.
just make sure everybody knows it's out there. I know we've had at least one applicant.
Okay. Next, we have consideration approval of an employment agreement with David R. Santucci Jr. for the town manager position. We had a special called meeting to interview 4 applicants for our town manager position. We selected David Santucci and gave Jeff Peach and Jeff Craig parameters in regards to negotiation for the town manager position, and Jeff Craig and Jeff Peach have brought that back to us. So at this point, do I have a motion?
Motion that we approve the contract as presented.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I hope I don't throw off Todd and them. Rather than waiting until my, I wanted to introduce you guys to Dave. He likes to go by Dave. He will come in and start working with us on October the 14th. He is currently the city manager for the city of Deerfield Beach, and he's held various positions there since 2015. For those of you that don't know, in May, the council voted to engage the executive search firm of Mercer Group Associates to lead a nationwide search. I will tell you, we had quite a few applicants. We narrowed those down to 6, had a special called meeting, and brought it down to 5 applicants. One of those did pull out of the search, and so we actually interviewed 4 candidates at our last special called meeting, and Dave did a great job. He began his public service career in 2004, working in local government in the public procurement profession in Lee County, Florida, and then with the city of Coconut Creek, Florida, and then he joined the city of Deerfield in June of 2011 as the purchasing manager and was promoted to assistant to the city manager and purchasing director in October of 2014. In 2016, he was named assistant city manager and appointed to the city manager in 2019. The Santucci's will be relocating here to Smyrna from their home in Florida. He is a former U.S. Marine Corps sergeant and combat veteran. He holds a Bachelor of Public Management from Florida Atlantic University. We won't hold that against him. And it is a great school, but they are one of our opponents at MTSU, and an Associates in Arts from Bowdoin College. And just so you know, Jeff's done a great job as interim, and Jeff will continue the interim position until October when Dave gets here. We've had a lot of discussion back and forth over the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure we will continue to do that. But I think he will do a great job. I will tell you, we interviewed him. He was our first interview at 9 o'clock. And then we had some more questions for him. They had not left. We called and asked would he be willing to come back. He put his suit back on and came back about 4:30 to interview and answer some more questions for us. So I think you guys will really like him, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our team. So we welcome Dave and his family in October. Jeff, anything under other?
Mike does have one announcement that we need to make.
Thank you, Jeff. Mayor, Council, we executed a change order back in July to lower a gas line out at Cedarstone Park. It was in the drainage ditch where we were relocating the drainage for the tennis and pickleball courts. So in the essence of time and getting that first phase of stormwater knocked out, we executed that and wanted to announce that tonight for the base, change to the base bid was $26,974.65. And I'd like to thank the Utilities Department for working with us to get that done. They asked the contractor to do the excavate, and they came out and lowered the line and provided the line quickly to keep us moving.
Okay. Questions for Mike? Thanks.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to ask, we talked about the city, that us giving Charles and staff direction in regards to Rock Springs Road and going ahead and looking at that in regards to budgeting and so that we can be working on that at the same time as Cooks Lane. Jeff, would you feel better if we put that on the agenda for workshop so that y'all can bring forward that so we can vote on that?
Yes, if there's a reason that I don't think we need to, then I just won't, but
Okay.
right now we'll plan on doing that.
Okay. I would like to look at it so we can look at what we think cost-wise and all that, so. Charles, is there anything else you can think of we need to put on there to discuss?
All right, just the Cooks Lane and Rock Springs Road.
Okay. Directors, department heads, anything? Oh, Rex, that's right, you've got the state shared and for June.
For the June state sales tax, we received $763,902. That's 111.9% of the budget. The 2024 actual compared to the 2023 actual was a 2.6% increase. And as you're looking at the slide, the previous year was a 4.9% increase, and the year before that was 17.2%. The June local sales tax, we received $1,752,031, and that is 95.4% of the budget. The 2024 actual compared to the 2023 actual was 3.9%. If you look at the year before, it was 7.9%, and the year before that was 13.6%. Sales tax growth is slowing down, and we will continue to monitor the collections going forward.
More than ever, it's important to shop local. Okay, thanks, Rex. Directors or department heads, any comments tonight? Amber?
I do have a slide tonight. Just wanted to let everybody know that we are 1 month out from our annual Top Gun Night Run. It's going to be held on Friday, September 13th at 7:30 p.m. at Lee Victory Recreation Park. This is a fun community event. We usually sell this race out. We're well on our way at this point as far as registrations. We've got some new sponsors that have come in, some rejuvenated sponsorships that have new people in new roles that are ready to get in and bring some fun ideas to this year's race. So we'll talk about those as they come to fruition, but we just wanted to invite everybody out. Go ahead and get those sign-ups in. You can go to runsignup.com and search Top Gun Night Run through the Run Sign Up website, or you can go directly to our website at townofsmyrna.org And there's a link at the top of the page where you can sign up for that race through our website. So we hope to see all of you out there in a month from today.
And we're adding some new free vendors at the end that I think everyone will enjoy, stuff they're gonna bring.
New band this year.
New band, that's right.
So,
Lots of fun.
exciting.
Yep. Jeff?
Yes, I've got one slide. As we wait for it to come up. All right. We had a great time at the National Night Out last week at the Smyrna Police Department. We were happy to see many community members at the event, touring the building and meeting the staff. We thank the chief and all of his folks. There you can see in the pictures Mayor Reed, Vice Mayor Adkins, Councilman Sullivan, probably the luckiest. He's next to a smart fellow there, and then Judge Stevens. But there were obviously more folks were out there, but this has been, I think we started it in around 1996 or 97, I think. And it's been going on nationally since 1984, but just a great opportunity for our family and friends to come out and become involved in crime prevention and see a little bit about what they do with the courts as well. That's all.
That's it. Ben?
I forgot my slides this month, so maybe next month.
Oh, maybe next month.
Ben will have a library slide next month.
Oh, that's good.
I hope they got a lot of color, but it's fine.
Heather will make sure you have a slide next time. Raquel?
I have one slide. It was a beautiful night for the annual barbecue festival this past Saturday, and we'd like to say congratulations to Slick Pig on being the 2024 Barbecue Fest People's Champion. Thank you to everybody who participated and came out. Oh, I do have one more thing. I would like to extend my condolences to the Rankin family and the town employees and the family that who's sharing in that loss. And that's all I have.
Steve, I think we're out of order, but
Okay.
do you want to do this one?
Yeah. So, we've talked about the special census. We'll continue to talk about it until March probably of next year.
I don't think you were out of order. I think that's our new.
Oh, is that our new placeholder?
All right, and we'll
Okay,
wait
got
until
it.
it
We'll
comes
wait
up.
until it comes up. HD, you're up.
But you were doing great.
Oh.
I was just getting started.
I'll wait.
You count two.
It's all on you.
Well, I just wait for them to finish.
Okay.
Now he's being hateful.
Yeah, he's mad.
I guess. Whether you're expecting your first baby and want to prepare to safely install your car seat, or stop by to confirm the proper use of car seats already in use, all are welcome. Join us for our free child passenger safety event on Saturday, August 17th at Smyrna Fire Station number 1. The Smyrna Fire Department certified technicians will be available to assist with installing, checking for the proper installation of child restraint seats. Free car seat safety check. Date, Saturday, August 17th, 2024. 9 to 1 p.m. That is at 401 East Enid Springs Road. You know, it's kind of scary. I think back to when my kids were small and what the car seats that they sat in. Good God Almighty. Like a bucket?
They laid in the back dash.
Yeah, yeah. It's come a long way, and it's very, very important, I think, that, you know, well, it's the law. What can we say? I don't know if y'all remember Dr. Sanders out of Murfreesboro, but he's the one who led the charge on getting the child seat law passed. My daddy used to say that, because he was into it, my daddy used to say he had a magnificent obsession because everywhere he went, he walked and talked and everything about the car seats. There we're up to Love Where You Live. Keep Smyrna litter free. Want to, as always, give a shout out to Tony Proctor. I mean, he's always picking up in his neighborhood and really the rest of us should take some tips from him and, you know, work around our neighborhood too. And as maybe people see us picking up trash, they will maybe not throw it out. Shop local. Rex was kind of disappointed in those numbers. I think he said they seemed to fall off a little bit, and I'm kind of glad that Ben's loosened up. He told the joke tonight, y'all. Congratulations. And that was me borderline not being kind. That's all I've got.
Sure, you know, you talked about, Mark tonight. He was at the service for Joy Sherrill. And if you knew Joy, she had a great first name because she was always so joyful and she brought a lot of joy to so many lives. You know, she served in the community for over 20 years as a realtor, and just a huge loss to our community. So my condolences to her family, and actually to so many friends that lost her. And I think with that, I've got a couple slides tonight. Okay, this Friday night, join Polly's Pocket, Nashville's radical 90s party band, for Live on the Lawn at the Smyrna Event Center. MTSU athletes will be on hand for the Blue Raider Athletics Family Fun Night. The Blue Raiders will have free inflatables, balloon artistry, and giveaways. There'll be classic cars, and it's going to be a great night of family fun. I've also been told that a late guest to the evening is Chief Bill Culberson. He'll be doing a remix to Ice Ice Baby.
We should charge admission.
And moving along, congratulations to the Courtyard by Marriott for their grand opening. Several of us were there. Food was there, so Todd was there. Rex was there to count the food that Todd was eating. Of course, I was there, Mark, Amber, Heather. Did I miss anybody up there? It's really a beautiful facility, and it's a great place for your family members when they come to visit. If you don't want them at your house, they can stay there, and welcome to the Courtyard.
Casey was there too.
Casey, okay, thank you. Yeah, she was. Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Jared?
Okay, I think I have, wanted to thank Richard Thomas for inviting myself and my wife Patty on the left out to the Boys and Girls Friendship Lunch. Some of the students there spoke, and just hearing them talk about what they've learned and what they get out of the Boys and Girls Club is pretty unique. And several of them talked about the universities and all that they've gone to visit that they're hoping to go to, and they've got some really good schools on their list. So thanks, Richard, and that's Miss Cheryl Chestnut there in the middle. She's the executive director, so I appreciate Richard inviting us to come out. I think I have another one. Yes, myself and Todd and Ben went over to the Springs Public School ribbon cutting. That's the charter school that's going here in Smyrna. That's my wife in the middle. She was with me there. She's the board chairman of that school. So we are so excited to have them here in the town of Smyrna. And just looking at some of the things here, it says the charter schools was created and is operated by the parents, understanding that every child is on a personalized educational journey. The mission is to empower students by fostering their innate curiosity, engaging their parents, and promoting optimal learning by collectively developing a personalized learning program for each student. So they are meeting at the Boys and Girls Club right now, and hopefully in several years they will be building a building here in the town of Smyrna to house their kids. I think they started out with somewhere around 200. So we are excited to have them in the town of Smyrna. They're out of California, and they decided that they wanted to go somewhere else, and so they picked Smyrna, Tennessee. So we're pretty honored to have them here. And then the last one here is, you see a lot of pictures on this. We had the Sister City delegation visit us from Zama, Japan. They got here, would be 2 weeks tomorrow night. And it's been a busy, busy week, actually week and a half, almost 2 weeks. We went to places like, let's see if I can, the State Museum, the National Farmers Market, the Bicentennial Mall, Chattanooga Aquarium, Nissan, the town hall, went to the museum, Musicians Hall of Fame, Sounds Game. They also went to the Hall of Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame. Basically, it was busy from about 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning till about 7 or 8 o'clock every night. And it was more than one place every day. So they sent 14 kids and 9 chaperones, and they stayed at the local homes here of our Citrus City kids. And it was funny to see them the night that they first arrived, and everybody was kind of sitting in their own little group. Our group was together, their group was together. And then the night that the mayor spoke, there was a lot of tears. And then we met Sunday morning at 4 o'clock and put them on the in the morning and put them on the bus, and there was more tears that morning. So it's really a unique program, and I've been with them now for 6 years. And I told somebody, I said I enjoyed Sister City, but I finally got it this last weekend, and I saw how the program was. So my thanks to our group that helped sponsor that, and a lot of people here did a lot of work as well. And Casey, my goodness, Casey has been busy for especially the last 5 months, and big shout out to Casey. And she does a fantastic job, and trying to keep up with her other regular job and then doing the work that she did for us. So big thanks to Casey.
It was pretty special. One of the chaperones that spoke at the end was talking about that, I think it was 20 years ago that she was here, and some of the kids that she met then now have kids. And so there is no better ambassador program for our two countries than this program.
It is.
It's a great program.
A couple of little announcements. Mike really enjoyed Barbecue Fest Saturday night. That was, and I know Raquel's talked about that, but boy, what a beautiful night we had that night, and you couldn't have asked for a better one. Dave, I know you're watching. You said you were going to be, I certainly want to welcome you to our town. Look forward to working with you. And last, Miss Donna, happy birthday. Thank you. She's always here, but just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
All right. First, I have a slide for Tennessee Chamber of Commerce and Industry held a contest to declare the coolest thing made in Tennessee, and I'm proud to say, as a Nissan employee and as a town of Smyrna citizen, that the Nissan Rogue won that competition. So for the entire state, the Nissan Rogue and the folks at Nissan Smyrna plant have won the competition as being the best or coolest thing made in the Tennessee. So really cool. It is also our top seller, so that's probably part of it too. A lot of people drive Rogues. I also have had the opportunity the last couple of weeks to assist, or really I've been assisting Amber with our special census that we're doing. There's a slide in Mary Esther's packet somewhere that I've kind of pulled out, so we'll get to it in just a second. But we had the opportunity today to go to the senior center and tell them about the special census and why it was important for them to complete it. We got a really good response. They filled out a lot of cards while we were there. We did not get a picture. Don't know why, but we forgot to take a picture. Yeah, we were busy. Yeah, and it was really fun. That one thing that I got to experience there, which was kind of interesting, is they have a creative writing group that meets. I don't want to tell you in a couple of days a week or a couple of days a month, but today was their day to present their writings, and so there were. I don't know how many. I saw 4 or 5. There was 1 or 2 probably before I got there, but. members of the senior citizen community got up and read their writing, and they were true writings mostly about things that they had experienced in their life. And it was very, very entertaining. They did a great job. It was just, I can't give it the credit that it deserves. It was very entertaining to hear some of the things that we heard. One of the gentlemen had cooked for Tommy Lee Jones as a chef and had a whole story about that. And another gentleman told us about a motorcycle accident that he had. And I mean, it was very entertaining, very fun. So if you're not a part of Senior Citizen Center, you're missing a lot of fun. It was actually really enjoyable today. So thank you for letting us come out. This weekend, we have an adult softball tournament at Volunteer Park. I think we're at 14 or 15 teams from all over Middle Tennessee that'll be here. So we're doing our part for shopping local. They'll buy gas and spend money at restaurants while they're here. And we also, our fall ball is starting tomorrow night, actually. We have a Venezuelan league that plays on Wednesday night, and they start tomorrow night. So starting next week, every other night will be full, so Volunteer Park will be up and running again for the fall. And add my condolences to the Rankin family and to the Sherrill family. I know Joy lived on Burnt Knob Road right down the street from my mom and dad, and I recently just had a conversation with her about traffic on Burnt Knob Road and speeding, and she was passionate about it. And if you know Joy, you know that she was not afraid to tell you what she thought. And she was bending my ear pretty good, and I appreciate that about her. She would always tell you exactly how she felt, and she's going to be missed. And then I will also say I called Dave one time this week. I've talked to him once since we voted him, so I called him just to welcome him and ended up talking to him for more than a half hour. Really appreciate that conversation. I think we have gotten a great candidate, a great representative coming to represent us here in Smyrna, and I'm excited. I'll tell you, Dan, you'll appreciate this. He is a former Marine. He was the only one in the packet that I remember that had any military experience. I think maybe Kevin may have had some National Guard or something. But anyway, I saw that he was a Marine, and I remember thinking in the back of my head at that moment, he's not the right guy for the town of Smyrna. The employees and the people in the town of Smyrna probably don't want another Marine around. So I remember thinking initially he was not going to be the right candidate just from his initial paperwork interview and knowing what a combat veteran sergeant in the Marine Corps is going to be like. We had little video interviews. He came in. He was still not the top of my list just from the little videos that we saw. He was second or third. He made the short list, but I didn't expect to be, I'd just say, kind of wowed by him. And when he came in and spoke his first interview, the first part of the interview, he did a great job. You know, said he was nervous, didn't look like it, completely knocked everything out of the park. But really what sold me was that call to come back in the afternoon. We had already interviewed everyone. There was no plans for us to talk to him again. He actually had plans to go to a concert with his wife, I think on Saturday. So he was done with his interview and going about town and kind of looking around and learning the area. And we kind of talked and said, you know, we'd like to have some more conversations. And this was about an hour after we were supposed to be done. And so we asked, can we call and see if he happens to still be in the area? Can he come back? And Mayor Esther alluded to this. He not only came back, he went back to the hotel, got back in his suit, came back, you know, dropped whatever he was doing with his wife, gave us about a 30-minute window, showed up, came in the room, sat down, with no idea what we're going to ask him, no plan, didn't expect to do this, and literally answered every question like he had it scripted, like he knew exactly what we were going to say and he knew exactly what we were looking for. I was extremely impressed in the way he handled that stress and that pressure that we put on him at that last minute. And that wasn't our intention. We didn't plan for that. But that's obviously the byproduct, and I was extremely impressed with how he handled that. Came back in and just phenomenal job. So I'm really looking forward to him. I think he's going to be a great add to the town, and it doesn't hurt that he's a former Marine. I think that's even better. So that's it.
Great.
So, a couple of slides for me. Congratulations to the Pavilion Senior Living on their recent ribbon cutting. We are glad to have them. Next. Last week, PepsiCo Beverage North America celebrated the grand opening of a new warehouse and distribution center in Smyrna. It's behind Legends, and now that it's the company's largest in the southeast and the second largest distribution center in the country. So we are really excited to have them. We got to do a walkthrough of the facility, and it is state of the art. So I will tell you, they've already stepped up and are going to be part of the Top Gun night run. So we're excited that they're already getting involved. Just so you know, their relocation is from their former downtown Nashville distribution warehouse, and their new facility is about a 400,000 square foot state-of-the-art location that is here in Smyrna. So we're really excited to have them, and they are ready to get involved in the community. Mark your calendars. This is the event we were talking about earlier tonight. MyTDOT will host a public meeting at the Smyrna Event Center for the I-24 Southeast Choice Lanes project on August 21st from 5 to 7, and we really need your feedback. The last slide is Steve.
Now it's my turn.
Now it's your turn.
Yeah, so by now you've heard we're doing a special census. So the last census that we had in the town of Smyrna, I think, was 2020. And in 2020 we were at 53,000. We believe that it's much higher than that now, probably close to 58,000. That represents about a 5,000 person increase in the count. And at $175 a person, that's $875,000 we're leaving on the table. So the next census would not happen until 2030. So we're only at 24, and we already are thinking it's almost $1 million. Imagine where it'll be by 2030. So that's why we're doing it. It's this is how we keep your property taxes low. Property taxes is number 3 or 4 in our source of revenues. Isn't that right, Rex? So tax, state shared tax, and local sales tax is where we get the money to run the town, the majority of it, and this is what helps do that. So if you want to know why we're doing it, this is why we're doing it. There's 3 ways that you can complete your census. You can come to Town Hall, complete the little blue forms in person here at Town Hall and turn them in. You can do it online with your computer or your smartphone by going to townofsmyrna.org and following the links. Or you can also give us a phone call. We'll fill it out for you over the phone, take the information and put it in. That number is 615-267-5005. There's only 3 pieces of information required. We need your full Smyrna address, street name and number. And we need the number of people living in your home regardless of age. If you've got a newborn that was born last night, they count. So everyone that lives in your house counts. And then we need the full name of each resident. It's important to give us those. This information is confidential and required to be confidential for 72 years. I told the Senior Citizen Center today that I won't be here in 72 years, so my information will not be able to be disseminated the rest of my life. They may still be around, but I won't be, so it's all good. This information will never be made available to law enforcement, immigration, or any other outside entity. It's not allowed to be, so there's no other purposes for this other than just simply to turn numbers in for the tax purposes. Let's see, did I get everything? Oh, if you attend a Smyrna school, the census form should have been given to students at the school. So look for a blue census card coming home with your kiddos from the Smyrna schools, and fill that card out and either drop it off or turn it in at our next event. We will be pretty much at every event between now and next March. That's when this finishes, is next March. So if you've already heard about it, great. You're going to hear about it a lot more. So keep an eye out for the logo. Look for us at events. We were at Night Out on the crime, whatever that was, Night Out Against Crime. We were there with a tent. We were at Senior Citizen Center today. Amber's been at schools events. Barbecue Fest. I'm sure we will be at upcoming depot days and everything else that comes up. So just keep an eye out. The last thing I'll say is if you're sitting out there and you're thinking, that's great, I just don't know that I want to fool with it, just so you know what happens if you don't. We will send firemen to your house. Yeah, Chief Bill, he will do MC Hammer on your front porch and make you turn in that form. No, we do have to keep track of every home. So we have a GIS map. We're checking off homes as they complete the forms, and if your home doesn't complete a form, then we will send staff to your house to get that form filled out. So that obviously creates more work for us, more time and more effort on our part. Not only do we still get the 175, but it's going to cost us money, right? So by you going and doing this, it saves all of us a lot of time and effort. So appreciate the support, and go get counted. Jerry, you count too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else to come before council tonight? No? Markel says nothing. Nothing. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.